Welcome, Earthlings, non-Earthlings, ridiculous ones and soon-to-be ridiculous ones. You're right on time for your ridiculous hour. Welcome to the Now. The Now is the only time we air this show. We film it 2 months in advance, so we are well into May now, but you're in your March, so welcome wherever you are, wherever you're watching this. I am pleased to have on our guest today, Patrick Lovitt. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Welcome. And what other name do you go by?
Lao was a name given to me by my original master and teacher growing up. He called me Dalong. Da means big or large, because about 14 years old, I was taller than everybody in Chinatown in San Francisco. And Long means dragon, but mainly because I was extraordinarily tall and thin, so I was kind of spindly.
Oh, nice.
And so I just got called Dalong. And then Lao means old, for like an old soul. And it's kind of a last name as well in Chinese. So
the full name is?
Lao Dalong.
Nice. So it's like old, long, dragon.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Cool.
It was a good name. Growing up, I didn't really think of it in terms of dragon in that way. I felt gangly compared to everybody in Chinatown, and sort of it stuck. And then most of my friends, they didn't call me that, but I've just gone by a bunch of different nicknames or whatever. But that's the name as I've come back to the Daoist path, and as I sort of started teaching more, that was just a name that was sort of affectionately kept me towards my master and tied to him. He died about 1994, but and I kind of miss him, so I like the name just because it reminds me of him so much.
Oh, so when you hear someone call you that name, it kind of reminds you of him.
Oh yeah,
That's super cool.
He was something else. He always had this little Chinese accent. He was a Buddhist, a Chan Buddhist. Chan is Zen, and he's a Chan Buddhist monk. He always say "Dalong, bela," and I mean, no matter how frustrated, irritated I was, I could never be in a bad mood when he would call me, because he would just completely break my state and just help me feel amazing. He was an amazing guy. I miss him a lot.
Nice. Do you help people, like people that study Daoism and whatnot, do you help them come into their new name? And is that something that's necessary, optional? How does that work?
Well, yeah. I mean, so, how many times has the poet or the bard written what's in a name, right? So, for example, Joseph. Are you a Joseph? What does that mean? If you look at anything, right, is your hand a Joseph? If your elbow a Joseph? What's a Joseph? Really, the word or a name is an incantation or an invocation saying to get your attention. In a group full of people, you may have 1,000 Josephs, but the one voice with the one inflection will get your attention, most likely. And so, but people oftentimes associate themselves with that name, right? So I am this, and this is who I am, and I must defend this name. This is my flag. This is who I am. And oftentimes people change so much through the time from when they're first given it at birth to 50 years old that can you really even say that that's who you are? So when people come to study with me, Daoism or any of the other sort of tracks, what happens is for the first year, it's more of an orientation, and they go by their normal name. And if that's really weeding out period to filter whether people want to study this, is it for them, is it not? But as they go further, the first name they're given is called their truth name. A truth name is a really important stage in sort of Taoist education. Now, I'm going to tell you up front, I don't speak for all Taoists everywhere. There are more different types of Taoists on the planet than there are Christians or Muslims or anyone else. So when I say Taoist, I'm talking in a very general stroke, but there are people in the Fox spirit sector like, that's not what us Taoists do. And there are people, in the Hermetic school are like, oh, we don't do that here.
So this is your flavor.
This is what I have been exposed to. Exactly right. So, but from the lineage, you can say that I came from, and then I've studied with so many different Taoist masters throughout the world that it's kind of a common thing in a very different variation, but this is just the way that I sort of do it that works best for the people I work with. And everything I do, I don't cling, sort of ridiculously to the past. Thanks. I don't cling to things like this is the way it's always been. It's the way it's always. Daoism's always been revolutionary, right? It's what the people need at the time. What I teach specifically is for the people that it's for. It's not this mold the student to the teaching. because if the student doesn't get it, then it doesn't matter what you teach.
So I have a clarifying question there. So does that mean you feel the energy, like, because I don't really prepare when I'm going to teach a class. I don't prepare much at all. And I do, I kind of tap into who's there and whatnot. But do you do that by feeling the energy of the group? Or do you ask questions to see what they came for and do it intellectually? Or is it more intuitive, like just
I do both.
feeling?
I do a bit of both of all those. So I don't really prepare when I go before a class because it's contrived and you'll never really stick to that plan, right?
Agreed.
The plan is always gotten rid of. But what I do is the last couple of decades that I've been walking the path and going all over the world and visiting all these different countries, I've been preparing myself. So it doesn't matter what the situation is. What matters is can I meet that situation for what? And so it's like being in a river, right? So the river flows and there can be rapids and falls and rocks and lazy river. You can't understand the river and you really can't foreshadow the river, but you can know what you can do. And you can make sure that whatever the river requires, at that moment, you can meet that river where it is, and then you can enjoy the river instead of it being foreboding, trying to control the flow and everything else, which is just going to leave you crushed against rocks. So it's kind of like that when I teach. Every person that comes in front of me, I can feel them, I understand them, because I truly have learned a really difficult skill that most people don't get is I learned how to listen. But not just with my ears, I learned how to listen with my whole body, my whole attention. My mind's not in the past or some future or some lamentation of some perceived should that I didn't live up to. When I'm with people and I'm teaching, I'm 100% present with whatever they need. And so the littlest things they do, not only do I see and feel, but they're constantly telling me and feeding back a story. Recently, I've been doing these videos called Dao in a Minute. And they're really interesting because it's usually me and a camera, and they're very difficult. It's very difficult to do because there's no feedback. You're just looking at the camera going, hi, welcome to Dao in a Minute. And you're like, this camera's giving me nothing.
Yeah.
There's no life in that. And sort of I've learned to sort of respond and react into life itself. And so when I'm in a room full of people, every person in there needs something different. And it's like a parent, right? You have one child that's very trying and needs to use their body physically, and some are very cerebral and some are very creative. And to know how to do that is something that I have learned from amazing teachers all over the world who've done it with me. I've seen it in the classes or the groups that I've been in. And my master was probably the quintessential teacher of this, because no matter who he was around, he was like the water and the context was like the glass. So if you pour him into a flute glass, he's going to be that. And if you pour him into a shot glass, he's that. And you pour him into a sippy cup, he's that. He was never inauthentic ever. He was authentically who he was, but the expression of that would change based on the audience, right? Number one thing about public speaking is know your audience. Whether it's 1,000 or 1 people, it's public speaking. And so that's basically what I do. So when it comes to like the truth name, after somebody studied with me a year, I've known them enough. I've interacted with them. I'm very interactive with my students. I get very deeply into who they are, their lives, because I care. I truly care. First, I was not that big on having this close relationship because I didn't really think anybody cared or wanted to do any of this stuff, to be honest. I didn't think anybody, it was a big deal. But I don't know, they kind of grew on me. And next thing you know, they're kind of like kids to me. They're like, wow, watching them blossom and grow, and it's been very rewarding. So I kind of instituted this idea when I first told them my truth name, which Lao Dalong is. They were kind of asked about it, and I said, well, a truth name is designed to be sort of the truth of you. Your teacher, your master gives you that in order to help you to remember who you are when you've lost yourself, right? So when you go through life changes, sometimes you're not aware that you're changing.
It's a recalibration.
Yeah, and so when you look at your name has a huge influence over who you are, not because the name itself, but because who's contemplating it. For example, my name, Old, Big, or Long Dragon. So as a 10-year-old, that would be a fantastical thing. But maybe as a 20-year-old with angst and sort of the idealism, it's another name. You know, and now in the 40s, it's like, It has these different contexts because each word has so many different layers and meanings, right? One of my students' name is eagle in the sun's shadow, right? So an eagle is these are hieroglyphic symbolic names. And so an eagle is somebody who rises above their surroundings, might have been born on the ground or in a tree, but they live in the air, live in the sublime. They've overcome their beginnings, and now they've sort of came to this higher place in their life. And then the sun, which casts no shadow, yet living in the sun's shadow. So it's an idea. And so I remember an old Native American saying when I was young, I heard it said, when you've lost who you are, go back to the last place you heard your name on the wind. And so that became a very big sort of deciding factor. And so when people came to me, they were like, well, could I have a Chinese name? And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. You're not Chinese. But one of the things we deal a lot with in Daoism is about identity. What is your identity? Who are you? And most people have a very firm, fixed identity. So much so that when life changes, that identity no longer really matches, they'll still go to bat for that identity, even though they don't believe in it anymore. They'll defend it.
Yeah, like through their education,
Sure.
or even if they're not doing that anymore, like I am this is what I am. Yeah.
Think about the people who go to war and they're warriors, and I'm a warrior, but then they go home and they're with their family. Well, if I am a warrior, does that really match? Right? Do your kids now who are maybe artistically inclined, do they have to conform to the warrior's way? Right? But none of us are warriors, even though we have warriors inside of us. Some of us have artists. Some people have, and this is where the Dungeons and Dragons people have been a really great psychological study, is that you have the warrior, elf, mage, you have all of these, but these are archetypes within us. We're a storytelling, oral tradition species. We always have been. And no matter how much you write down, we still tell stories, right? Our movies that we watch, our TV shows that we watch, these things that get ideas across, Aesop's fables all these years later are telling us these things. So we must evolve in our own life, our own path, but identity has to evolve with us. And sometimes when it evolves really quickly, we call that a midlife crisis or something else. And so the idea of not identifying with an identity, but allowing ourselves to be a little more mercurial in the fact that, well, if I lost my memory today, who could I be tomorrow?
Right.
And so these truth names allow people to sort of get away from, this hardened identity. For example, right now, Joseph has a history, and that history has made Joseph. But if I gave you enough sodium pentothal, you wouldn't have any recollection of Joseph and or any time before this life. You'd be completely mind-wiped.
Who would I be?
Now, who would you be, right? You could be completely different. You might be like, well, now I like to do crocheting, and I'm from Santorini, Greece. And everybody's like, that's not who you are. But who are you? I mean, it's a very, very subjective thing to say. And so what happens with this truth name is it becomes more flexible with you, because there's so many different levels of these meanings, and we no longer take it to be, this is me, but it expresses many different things that I could be. And the world requires you to be flexible enough to meet the world as it is.
Right, because if we have the capability of being anything,
sure,
then whenever we align ourselves with being these things,
yeah,
it's keeping us from being these other things,
sure,
that may serve us. And it's okay, in the way I look at it, it's like, it's okay to put on that hat anytime you want.
Sure.
When you start identifying with that hat, it
sure,
it restrains you, it holds you back.
Sure, we call that Daoism. That's a symbol called Pu, P-U, Pu. Pu, yep, it means the uncarved block. So if I have a block of wood, right, what can that block of wood be carved into?
Anything.
Exactly. But the minute you carve it, now it can never be anything else.
Yeah, except something smaller.
Exactly. And so now all we say is to live the uncarved block life. So when you tell a Taoist, you're nothing. Yes, amazing.
Yeah.
Because now we can be anything. But it's not an easy thing to do. And so as I've started teaching in the West, here in Houston, I've got people in San Diego, I've got people in San Francisco, Minnesota, Kentucky, and now in Europe. It's not easy when you have a social security number, you have a birth certificate, you have a criminal history, a driver's history, this is who I am. And while the appellate court system is not so forgiving of that identity,
right,
the reality is what if you don't like anything you used to like? What if you're like, I don't want to be a Catholic, I don't want to be a Protestant, I don't even want to be an American, I just want to be a guy living on a rock. And one of the most transformational periods of my life is that down by the Rio Grande River, I saw a dog chase a rabbit. And the dog went right after that rabbit. And that rabbit was fast, but that dog was just back and forth. And I thought to myself, that dog just ran across the international border. And then I could do a damn thing to that dog.
And he didn't seem to care.
Neither did the rabbit. I thought, what happens if I run across that border? Someone's going to throw me in a cage like a dog. But I'm supposedly the higher sentient being with, you know, the great civilization behind me. And he's supposed to be a mere animal.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know, we died for borders and flags and all of these things. But why don't we live for things? Why don't we live to be who we could be? Why don't it's, you know, we romanticize death so much. I would die for you. It's like, I'm not that interested in that. How about living? Could you live for you?
Live for me.
And so when my students always come and they say, well, what do you expect of us? I expect you to be happy, do your work, and live. And you know, that is the most toughest thing for them to do. It is probably if I asked them to take austerity measures and do, you know, self-sacrificing and deprivation, they'd be like, yes, master. But if I go, they say, what can I do? Be happy? I mean, something real. Like, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, and it reminds me I studied landmark form education, and one of the things they teach is all of life is empty and meaningless. And the whole room just erupts. They're like, well, yeah, you're trying to say my grandchildren are meaningless? And they let everyone kind of boil a little bit. And then they explain that it's, we create the meaning and we can change that meaning, and we can look around and say, well, that's a tree. Obviously, it's a tree. It's been defined as a tree. That is a tree. I can prove it. It's like, is it really a tree? Sure. It's the word we made up. And by defining all trees with that word tree, are we taking away from their identity, like from their specialness, their uniqueness, by just, that's a tree, it's another tree? Sure. Yeah, Daoists do a lot of that type of stuff. For example, when a master and I went up to Northern California in the redwood forest, and I saw a redwood, knocked over, but the thing's still, extremely tall, even though it's on its side. And he says to me, show me where the trees are. So I point to the trees. He's like, you're kind of blind. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, he pointed to the ground. Is there a tree there? I said, I don't see a tree. So you have to see it for it to be real. I said, well, no, but he said, no. Seed go in ground. Open seed, no tree. Seed go down, not up. Tree go up. We say that's the growth of the tree, but the soil depleted, so it's the destruction of soil. Then tree fall over. We say it's the death of tree, but now tree go into soil, enrich soil. So is it only tree in above ground, or is it tree on the side of the ground, or is it decomposed? When does it ever stop being tree? We talk about one part of a cycle, and we say it's that. But the other part of the cycle, that's not, because we don't see cycles. We see things on a timeline, right? You look at the horizon. You see one line. That's why people thought the earth was flat. But the world's round. Everything's a circle. There is no begin or ending in a circle. So from the tree going down and coming up, depleting the soil, becoming a tree, coming down, enriching the soil, for the next tree to come up, it's still all a tree. Interesting. And when we stop looking at things as birth and death, which the Buddhists call samsara, and we look at it in terms of processes, there can be no win or lose. There can be no death or birth. There can just be learning. Yeah. It's kind of like, I wish I could remember where I got this story from, because I give it credit, but it's kind of like the story of, if you believe, let's say, a womb has a consciousness. Sure. Like body cells have consciousness. So let's take the leap and say a womb has a consciousness. Well, a baby's going to grow up in the womb, sure, and the womb's going to nurture that baby and take care of that baby, and just love the baby. And then all of a sudden there's this bright light, and then the baby follows the bright light, Sure. And to the womb, that's a death. The baby's dying, like, oh no, don't go. Oh, now the baby's went into the bright light, and now the baby is gone and dead. And that's where I think, postpartum depression comes from, sure, and things like that. And it just shows you, that cycle you're talking about, because sure, it's death to the womb, life to the people outside of the womb. Sure. Brand new life. Well, think about the human body. In its form, as you call a human body, we say this is a human body. Yet, if you look at all the constituent elements of a body before it's born, and then after it's dead,
this is the anomaly. It's not always like this. In order for us to be born in this world, we had to die wherever we were. And wherever, when we leave this world, we have to die here to be born wherever we go to next on, right? For the Christians, it's to heaven or whatever. For the, it's the wheel of samsara. For the Eastern religions, irrespective, there's always this continuation. There's never this sort of, we just blink out of existence necessarily. In the more spiritual paths, obviously, there are some atheists and even some agnostics like, oh, death is just the end of it. But they really can never say that because, of course, energy can never die, coming in and out of form and all that. But transformation has always baffled people because we think transformation has clear delineated steps because we say we can observe them. And that sort of goes to the hubris of a lot of human minds, which thinks, if I can't instrument it, then it doesn't exist. We leave all the rest of the parts of the, sort of unspoken for parts of the process, well, that they don't exist. For example, 750 nanometers per second cycling is what we call red. And 350 nanometers cycling per second, we call that violet. And everything above red is infrared. Everything below violet is ultraviolet. So 400 nanometers per second is our visible spectrum of one thing called white light, but fractaled into 7 colors. What's above infrared? We don't know. We don't have any instrumentation. Yeah. So it's all just infrared. It's all just lumped it in. And it's like, there's so much we don't understand. And for some people, that scares the living hell out of it.
Yeah.
We always become afraid of that which we don't know. If we don't know something exists, then it doesn't exist. But the amygdala and the old brain, which makes up stories and these fantastical things, say, if we don't know, then possibly we can be harmed. Right. And it's like, but what about we could possibly be helped, right? So a lot of what it means to be a Taoist is to sort of take away this idea that we could be harmed and we could be helped. We could just be, and whatever the situation is, we can trust the process.
Yeah. But
people very rarely see in processes. They see in results, right? They see the potential, they take the action, waiting for the result. If the result matches their expectations, life is happy. When life doesn't meet your expectations, life is wrong. And they don't see the process of it.
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of humans miss is that we think when we close our eyes that all this stuff is out here the same way that when we open our eyes it's there, but we forget that we create it. No other, maybe some other humans see it the way we see it. Probably me and you see the world way different, but we don't realize it. Sure. But definitely an earthworm doesn't see the world the way we see it. An eagle doesn't see the world the way we see it. It's like different color spectrums, different shapes, like different everything. And even an eagle and an earthworm, I don't even know if an earthworm has eyes, but things that it doesn't, right? So things that don't have eyes see it completely different,
Blind people.
Can you imagine seeing like a bat? So like we assume that this is how it looks. And it's not. It's just how we create it when we open our eyes. And when we close our eyes, it's not there anymore, literally.
No, and to go beyond that, think about this. You sit in a movie theater and you watch a movie. Your heart starts doing this and you think, it's a screen. I know I paid for this movie. And I'm still reacting if it's real.
Yeah.
What if you think, okay, I'm looking at my knees, but I can't look at my knees because what I'm seeing is not here. It's on a screen in the back of my head that's accumulated by these receptors, but everything I think I'm seeing in front of me is really behind me on the screen in my visual cortex. You can't see anything outside of you. All you can see is what the mind combinates, hoping that these receptors kind of work. There's no way to know, and you would never question it if there's no contrast to it.
Right.
So everything in life is about perception, right? It's about what you focus on. People walk into a room and some people say, that was a terrible party. Did you see the way people were looking at me? And some people say, that was a great party. Did you hear the music? Well, which was it?
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're looking for is what you'll see. Funny story, my master and I, living in San Francisco, one day he said to me, you go down to the beach a lot. I said, yeah, I go to Santa Cruz, which is right down past, about 40 miles past San Francisco. He's like, take me. So we went down to Santa Cruz and we're on the beach. And it's nighttime. And the ocean's kind of, low tide and everything. He looks at it, he says, what an amazing, ocean. Have you ever seen anything like this before? I'm like, yeah, I come surfing here. I've seen this before. You've seen this before? I'm like, yeah, I come here a lot. You see that wave? You see this tank? You see that wave over there? You see it all that? Wow, you're amazing. So, I mean, it's the same water. It's the same water? This one always like this? Wow. I'm like, no, what I mean, what you mean is you have contempt because you think, oh, I've seen it. There's nothing new to see. So you miss magic of life. And he points to the sky and he says, what do you see? I'm like, night sky, stars. He's like, look for one thing. What do you see? I say, I see a lot of black. Because you look for darkness. I see nothing but light. I'm like, but there's a lot more darkness than light. How can you say there's more darkness than light? You say dark because you have no way to perceive light with your eyes. But all light is everywhere. Light all places. Just because you can't see light doesn't mean no light exists. You sometimes have to use other eyes. I'm like, other eyes? Yeah, like your whole body, like your senses. Feel yourself feeling light. I'm like as in weight? He's like as in you get on my nerves sometimes. Stop thinking so much. Full head, empty heart, empty life. And that was a really big lesson for me because I'd go to countries and I would meet people, like I was in the Andes Mountains, this woman had 11 children. And I said to her, I said, hey, you know, is it really difficult? I know you don't have a lot of money up here and all. And she's like, well, we don't do much trading in town and all, so we don't make much money. And I said, so is it probably very hard with 11 children? I mean, your husband's been dead for a long time. Raising, being, it's very difficult being poor up here. She's like, I'm not poor. I have 11 children. What are you talking about? And I was like, wow. I mean, that was a real lesson in economics to me, what people call worth and value. Mm-hmm. And so I said to her, just kind of being a smart ass, I said, well, how do you feel about the fall of Western civilization? She said, it'll get up. And, there are people who can't even write their name on the ground or write their name on a piece of paper, but are far wiser than people with PhDs who are sitting there wondering, about the very nature of the fabric of reality, yet they're wiser at home, angry and upset because they're not home,
Right.
No,
too busy writing books about how to live.
Exactly, instead of living. And so it was a really big lesson for me. And so that's kind of what I try to impart more than anything else is not knowledge, but skill, right? You don't need knowledge to live in this world. You need skill. Knowing how to do something and doing it are far different things. Right. And so, for example, I kind of tell this to my students. I said, you go to school for 8 years to become a doctor, and you go 4 more years to become an OBGYN, and then you deliver 1,000 babies. The minute you have your first baby, you'll be like, wow, I never understood. There's just no way, right? There's intuitive knowledge, which can't be told, like the color red or having babies. There's rational knowledge, but this isn't a rational world. And it's not a rational universe by any means. And so
it's experiential.
It is, and having skill is the only way to experience it. And most people are dramatically deficient in the skills. Things like Sufism and Sikhism and Daoism and Nihilism, these are about skills. These are about learning how to interface with life. And when you're in a place and there's an earthquake and there's massive amounts of death, instead of going, why is this happening to me? Well, nothing's happening to you. It's happening. You're a part of it. People, I hate traffic. You are traffic. What are you talking about? Or I'm going to go up camping. I need to get into nature. You are nature. Where do you think you live? We make these partitions in our mind. Right. And we separate it because when you read a book, right, black and white, it's a 2-dimensional world. You watch TV, and your whole world's on a 2-dimensional screen. And you look at the car while you're driving, you look out the windshield, it's 2-dimensional. There's not this depth. It doesn't exist. And everything that we would think would give you an added dimension, an added depth to life, was legislated against, right? You're not allowed to have experiential things. The things that give people experience, all but illegal in most countries and socially unacceptable. The guy down in the Amazon, the ayahuasquero, he provides more of a service sometimes than any psychologist I've ever seen. Not to spare him, a psychologist in the least, but this guy, he really has done amazing work with the people down there. And yet, he's just some, bush guy down there doing drugs.
Right.
And to him, that's the most profane thing in the world. You might as well, wrap pork chops in a tarah. That would be less denigrating to his spiritual beliefs than what people do. But
yeah, it's funny what they call drugs. When plants get labeled drugs all the time, and drugs get labeled medicine.
It's the most ridiculous thing. I actually saw a guy was down there. I wanted to understand more. I myself didn't partake. That was not part of my contract at the time, but I really have always had this sense of curiosity and wonder. And so I was down there and I watched this lady bring her 17-year-old son. And I guess, normal 17-year-old testosterone poisoning, sat him down and was like, you deal with this and you go through what you need to go through, and told the ayahuasca to help him. And he poured the yage and the kid drank it. And 2-3 days, he kind of went through a dark night of the soul. But he wasn't going through pink elephants and this things like Fantasia. This kid saw his entire life and sort of his behavior as the third-party omission observer and went, I'm a real putz. I've been an ass to my mom. I've been an ass to the people who've been trying to help me. So when his mom came back to pick him up, he was crying, and he's like, I'm so sorry about my behavior. I had no idea. And her answer was, well, we all go through that. That's no big deal. What matters is that you get it. I'm here to punish you.
Don't care about the past.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Punitiveness and punishment. When has punishment ever helped anybody? Right? Go to the general population and Huntsville, we're sharing. Are these people any better for being punished?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's not a thing.
You'll like this story. So my daughter's 11 now, but when she was 5, maybe 4, I would put her in timeout. It's the best answer I had at the moment. And so she would just sit in the corner and meditate, basically. But I would come to get her out, and I'm like, Emily, it's time. You can get out now. And she'd be like, okay. Stay in the corner. like, well, come on, I want to go play some soccer now. Like, let's get back to what we were doing. And she's like, in a little bit. So she would just stay. She would stay in timeout and meditate. And it was like I was the one being punished. I was like, come on. I'm like a little kid, like, we have so much to do today. Like, let's go. And so she just flipped that around on me, and now, I haven't put her in timeout in years now, and she's more my teacher than I'm hers. And I think as a parent, that was the biggest lesson for me, was to realize, like, it's not my job to teach her stuff. I mean, maybe not to cross the street, but without looking. But it's not like I'm not her human that was sent to make sure she doesn't make mistakes.
Sure.
I mean, maybe help clean up her mistakes. But certainly not, she's my Jedi Master, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
And once I got that at the age of, she was about 7, it became really easy. I see her more like a grandma than a child now. Like, she's more wise than me. She gets it better. Her life is more put together than mine. So it's just a whole paradigm shift with it that she's showed me. That, like you said, people would tell me about the gift of children. And I was kind of like 30 years old and hadn't had a kid yet. And I was like, yeah, I don't need kids to teach me that. I did.
And that's sort of the thing, right? So this idea of mistakes. What? Do we even know enough to make mistakes?
Yeah.
That's always like really baffled me. When I was in the monastery growing up and sort of with my master, one of the things that he would do if I would screw up or something like that, or I would think I would screw up, he'd always say something like this. He'd always go, and I'm kind of worried about retribution. He'd always say, you are so lucky. I'm like, because you're not going to kill me? And he's like, no, you understand this now. You didn't do this, old man. You did this now. So your whole life, you never have to do this again. And I was like, so I should just knock this vase over just to get that out of the way. And he'd say, but you won't, because you know better than that. Just do your best. Put the last words on the planet to his disciples. Do your best. And so this idea of mistakes we don't learn by doing anything right the first time.
Yeah.
We have a saying in Daoism, 7 times down, 8 times up. You've got to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do what doesn't work before we understand why what works. If we just do what works the first time every time, we learn nothing. We're not here to do anything more than learn. What happens is when we're a little child, we don't take anything for granted. We're literally this pool, right? This uncarved block. And so when you're walking and your hands are on the grass and you're a little kid, you're not walking on the grass is touching your back. And this little thing is wiggling and touching your palm, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And there's the tulips, and it's looking back at you, and you're looking at it. There's this interactiveness. And, when little kids watch movies, and you're like, oh my God, this is 200 times a day, because you watch a different movie. And the little kid's like, but I haven't seen this. And the reason why is there's so much going on. They use their nervous systems to always be looking for new things, whereas adults are like, yeah, I've seen it, like me with the water, right? And it's that getting that childlike, right? So in the Christian tradition, the warrior Jesus says, you must become like a little child again. You know, you got to get back to this original nature that you have. We stop looking at the world with contempt and thinking, oh, I already know that. Because it's a sense of self-importance. It gives a sense of certainty and security that we know. But the reality is what do we really know?
Right.
And, you know, given the best case scenario, we know less than nothing. All science, everything we have is based on assumptions. We assume certain things and base experiments on those assumptions. But in the end, sometimes those assumptions are right. And we can say there's a tendency enough that we can say this seems to be true. But often enough, it doesn't work either. And then we go, well, why didn't it work? So we're learning there. But nothing really exists. All things are becoming.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And so it really is. And because of that, we have to get out of this idea that we need to know. No, we need to learn. We need to get concepts. We need to get the fundamental ground of things. You know, when my students come to me, some of them are physicists, and other ones are artists and dancers and all kinds of people, yoga teachers. And a lot of them, you know, a lot of them deal with a lot of fear because of the unknown. What I don't know, I don't know. And the idea is well, you know, need to know. And in reality, when you get in the box, you never will know. Science every 10 years tells us what 10 years ago was wrong.
Right. Yeah, and the most advanced people that I've found, you know, the one thing they all have in common is they get that they don't know.
Sure.
they never will know.
Sure.
And I wanted to bring up, like, if we all took our 10 biggest mistakes, right, and just wiped them clean from our past, how much different would we be as a person? Like, what superpowers would we not have?
Sure.
You know, what compassion would we not have? What ability to relate to others would we not have? Like, people, I think, sometimes look back and go, oh, if I only could have done it this way. But who we are right now, yeah, it's based on all of our life, but it's based more so on our mistakes. You know, like, that's where we get our biggest juice.
Sure, but so this is kind of a subject that really is sort of endemic to Daoism. Buddhism shares it a bit, and but this is a really big Daoist sort of idea. Is that first off, let's talk about past. There can only be a past if there's a timeline, if there's a linear time, right? Time is the biggest thing that causes suffering in all of humanity. Deadlines, work-related stuff. You got to do time. The kids got to make in their milestones. And my 401k growing at time.
And then we've got this jacked up calendar that throws us off too.
Sure. And then, you know, the Hebrews got theirs, and the Greeks got theirs, the Chinese got theirs, and everybody's so sure, and yet nobody knows a damn thing about time. And when you're doing everything great, time goes fast. But when you got a migraine, it's 1,000 years in a second. But, you know, you look at these things called memory, and you look at these things called time, and you go, wait. I'll show you an example of this personally. You don't have to say it out loud, but think of your worst mistake in your life. Take a second and really think of your worst mistake in your life.
Okay, got it.
What stands out most to you about that particular mistake?
What stands out most?
Mm-hmm.
How easy it would have been to make a different decision.
Okay, so what bothers you most about that is how you feel about it, not actually what happened. Did that mistake involve any other people?
Yes.
What were those people doing 2 days before that mistake happened?
This is a tricky one. It's more like it was something I didn't do that I could have done at any time.
Sure, but what were those other people doing 2 days before this didn't happen?
Same thing they always do. I mean,
you don't know that, do you? You can't really know what they were doing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't. I mean.
And what happened to you 5 days prior to not making this decision?
I'm not sure.
You don't know. There are so much about mistakes or past traumas me personally, been shot, stabbed, beaten, kidnapped, and sold from one country to another. All these things have happened. I am not upset in the least, traumatized by these, and the reason why is, at 5 years old, I skinned this knee as well. What makes things really bad is the intensity of the emotion we feel, not the events of what's happened, but how we feel about the events. And oftentimes, it's even how we feel about how we feel. For example, one of the biggest things when I was a little kid was, my parents died when I was very young. Well, one of the things that happened was there was a sort of situation where some adults in my life were arguing out front of the house, and I was sitting there listening to it, and I was a little kid, so little kids are very egocentric, so I was wondering, like, what did I do wrong? And I remember feeling first very afraid. Then I felt so helpless. Then I felt this tremendous amount of rage. And so going up my life, I always thought I felt rage about that situation. But then when I sat one day, I was at a particular temple and I was doing a couple week-long meditation as part of the training at that particular temple. I was doing this, and I started really looking at the situation, but I started taking the emotions out and just observing the situation. And on the face of it, I didn't even care about the situation. The situation, anything about the situation, didn't even matter. So then I started looking at, well, what do I really care about? And it was how I felt, right? That was what's really causing the lamentation. And then I thought to myself, so why did I feel sad or afraid? Then I felt rage. Like those don't seem to go.
Yeah.
But then I realized I felt sad, but then and afraid, but I didn't want to feel sad and afraid. So I was resisting that sadness and fear as a little kid because you don't want to feel that. That's terrible. I don't want to feel it. But then I felt helpless because I couldn't stop that. Then I felt rage because I didn't want to feel helpless. So the rage had nothing to do with what was happening and how I felt about how I felt. And then I thought to myself, and so my master used to tell me, Buddhism is the cessation of suffering. I said, well, if you start the premise with all life is suffering, which is the first noble truth, then it sucks. And he says, no, it's about not suffering. And I said, but if you're trying to stop suffering, you create suffering. He's like, this is the paradox. But suffering is when you resist what is. If you feel fear, so what? I'm like, but you're feeling about fear. You shouldn't feel fear. You don't want to feel fear. You don't like fear. That's the real problem, not the fear itself. You can't accept fear. It's a normal thing to feel fear. Humans feel fear. What's not normal is when people go, I'm afraid, but I don't want to be afraid. Wait! You just went to this whole other spectrum to try to avoid the fear, which created something worse than the fear. On the road to avoiding your destiny is where you need it. That's the idea about it. And so when I went, whatever was happening out there, how I feel about it is irrelevant because it really had nothing to do with me. That was a 6-year-old mind. And so I went, and the emotions were gone. As soon as the emotional charge was gone, it's no longer a memory. It's just a recollection.
So did you feel it? Like, because to me, I was thinking, well, so you just needed to go back and actually feel that, which could have taken 10 seconds and then...
It could have.
Did you not even need to do that?
You don't really need to do it. What the magic of life returns. This is what I've learned from all the decades of walking all the continents, living with all the countries. I can tell you, the magic of life happens when you accept and allow reality to be what it is. Person comes to me and they're like, I need help with something I've been working on for a long time. What have you been working on a long time? I've got depression. Okay, so what? I don't want to be depressed. Why? What's wrong with depression? You know what it's like to be depressed? Yeah, I just don't mind. Well, I don't want to feel it anymore. Well, you're resisting it. That's why it sticks around.
Yeah.
If I take a weight and I put it in my hand and I lift it, that resistance makes the muscle stronger, makes it stronger. So I have to get a bigger and bigger and bigger weight to get the kind of resistance. Depression or anything else is the same. The more you push away from it, the bigger and stronger it gets, and the stronger your affinity to resistance. The resistance makes tension, which keeps you together. When you accept and allow it, it's no big deal.
Yeah,
that's a very hard thing to do when you live in a world of duality, which is good, bad, right, wrong, and so this is good. I don't want to feel this and all. But the real question is if you if you didn't mind being afraid, or if you didn't mind being angry, you didn't mind being depressed, then it wouldn't matter.
Right. And that's resistance persists is cliche almost, but it's one of the deepest lessons, and one of those that I've used to kind of not understand and not to claim that I get it, but it's interesting to me to think, like, the way I look at it now is like the collective consciousness is up there going, hey y'all, we got a resistance down here. Let's create some scenarios to let them play it out, because obviously if they're resisting something, there's some juice here. They want to learn something from this. And so, we can't get past that until we just allow it to be what is. Like one of my other favorite universal laws is that whenever we allow something to be as is, it upgrades. It's like it's been waiting on us. Like, we don't realize that we're holding all these things that we don't want in our life in place with our resistance. And we just go, I allow you to be who you are. And it works for people, it works for situations, scenarios. It's been my favorite practice, just to allow it to be what it is.
And the biggest way to do that, and this is what I teach my students, and we don't see, this is a practical school, so their whole life, becomes absolutely transformed because they have to live these principles. And they come back to me and they're like, Siobhan, I've got these problems. I'm like, what problem? I've never had a problem my whole life. When you believe life happens to you, now you're resisting having problems. When you bare minimum accept life just happens, then you just become an observer and or maybe a participant. It's up to you. When you realize that resistance stays as long as you need to, like you said, get the juice and learn what you need to learn, then guess what happens? Life's happening for you. Life's conspiring on your behalf.
Right.
There's a huge amount of relief, of anxiety and tension and sadness and expectations when you can just allow life to be what it is and realize that process is conspiring for you. It doesn't mean it's going to feel good. It doesn't mean you're going to like it. But if anybody in the audience, if you would go to your spam box in your email, I would like you to find a customer service satisfaction survey from the universe and let me know, what are some of the questions that the universe wants to know about caring about how exactly you feel about, how life goes. It doesn't, right? How we feel and our pleasure about it is not really up to the universe. That's up to us.
Right. It's like if we're the observer of what's happening, not really. We are a participant in it, but we're the conscious observer, right?
Sure.
And you talked about perspective earlier, so it's like me and you could watch the same movie, and I go tell my friends, oh my God, I saw this movie. It was this horrible horror movie. It was just scary. And you're like telling your friends, my God, it was hilarious. You wouldn't believe, there was, so it's all perspective on how, and the question to ask is then, what kind of movie do I want to watch? And can I change my perception of the movie to not be so freaking attached to its outcome?
Sure, and that's sort of an endemic part of life. So the observer effect, right? Throughout the New Age or the spiritual movement or the scientific movement, that this double-slatted, observer effect, particles and waves, is a really big part of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which tells us that when we look at it, it becomes a thing. When we look away, it's not a thing. But the observer is the I, right? The I is the identity. It's what we identify with. But if we're the victim, then the identity is there's something harsh and something bad is going to happen to me. If we're the villain, then where's the advantage to take advantage of things? If we're the hero, then who do I need saving and who needs to be put down, right? So these are these identities that happen. One of the things that happens in my school, so there are 5 different sort of schools of thought within Daoism. They've been recombinated so many times, but I sort of teach them separately but mixed up. But is just like the physical school, which is the martial school or the medicine school. There's the philosophical school, there's the alchemical school, the mystical school, and then there's the herbal school. And it's funny, my philosophy, my Taoist philosophers and Taoist scholars, I'll give them a list of really inflammatory subjects like child pornography and abortion, like really inflammatory, and I say, can you please give me your stated position on them? And then they give me their stated position on it, and I say, now you have the next 4 months, I want you to become an advocate and proponent for the opposite view. I want you to vehemently defend the opposite view to me when we have our discussion on this in 4 months, and I want you to tell me why it's the most important thing. And the reason why is as long as there's an us and a them, right? Perspective because we think our perspectives are different, that somehow makes us different. That's not true. I can look at a diamond and you can look at a diamond and I say, well, I look at it and I see this inclusion and I see this, I see that. And from your view of it, you'll say, I don't see any inclusions. What are you talking about? What are you looking at? Because the way light hits it, there are fractals within it. And so light refracts in all the different ways. You can't really see the center of a diamond with the naked eye. You're going to see reflected, like a hall of mirrors. And so even though we think we're looking at the same thing, we're not really looking at the same thing. That's how the perspective works. And the observer makes us completely see things different.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but just because we see things different doesn't make us different. It's that extrapolation of that identity, because we all want our uniqueness, but at the same time, what makes us unique is how we see things differently. But it doesn't make us different from one another. How we perceive and process things is different. Still doesn't take away the unification that as goes one, us, so goes us all.
Yeah, and that's why, as a planet, we haven't gotten over our thrill with war because we're still resistant to war.
Sure.
And I'm so glad you pointed it out to your students, because I have this theory, like, let's just take school shootings, for example, or we could take a priest that molested a bunch of kids,
Sure.
and whatever. But let's take the school shooting. So what happens? What happens is the school gets shot up.
Sure.
And then generally there's a huge amount of people that will have pity and sorrow for the family and the victims, right?
Sure.
Two relatively negative emotions, negative being in quotes.
Sure.
And then what happens to the shooter? Hate, anger,
Sure.
rage, more negative emotions, And so it's like, if we actually want these school shootings to stop, we send love to the families and victims.
Sure.
We send love to the shooter.
Sure.
That's the way to make it stop. Stop the resistance to this.
Sure.
And love the shooter, because that most of the times the shooting happened because there was no love for the shooter.
Sure.
in whatever way. But that's kind of the way I see it now. It's like, if I can, it's not that I'm a proponent of war, shootings, and molestation, but if I can become okay with it and neutral to it, I'm part of the humans that are ready to move on from it.
Sure. And that's where we come with the idea of accept and allow, right? Acceptance doesn't mean you condone it.
Right.
Or you're a cheerleader for it. It means that this happens. But this goes back again to us as an oral tradition people. We've always used, like, for example, Plato's Republic, right? You're in the cave, there's the shadow people on the wall, we see the shadow people, we're like, oh my God, we believe these shadow people, and now there's the darker ones, and these darker ones, and they look all these interplays, and then you walk outside the cave and like, holy crap, this is the dream world, this isn't real, and you go back into the cave. The cave is your mind, your thoughts, and you believing your thoughts, that's the shadows. But every story, Shakespeare, Aesop, Plato, Homer, all the way back, there's always a villain, victim, and hero, right? These are the identities, these are the archetypes. And so we need to put all of our hate on the people who did the bad, because then that makes us good.
Right.
Right? Think about angels and demons. Are they even different? For example, the Archangel Michael, he's the amazing archangel. What if you're a dragon? Michael's an ass. He kills dragons.
Right.
That isn't cool. He's a demon. Right? It's the perspective, again, of the observer. But this is where you got to, again, with memories, taking out this emotional attachment in charge of your own insecurities and fears and projecting them, and then start looking at people going, matter of fact, this is a very big thing. I do Dao in a Minute videos, and one was on focus. We were talking about perspective and focus. And a guy, I think he was from Missouri or maybe in Tennessee, he comes on there and he says, okay, let's talk about focus. You got a black kid, and he pulls out what the cop thinks is a gun, and the cop shoots it, but it wasn't a gun in the kid's hand. Now, where's the focus in that? And I said, okay, but before we go to this premise, you've given me cop, you've given me black kid, you've given me these labels that have nothing to do with humans. There are no black kids, there are kids. There are no cops, there are people. All of these are dehumanizing words. I said, the focus on this, for the cop, he's not focused. Cop focused on one thing, and that's his safety. That's it. He's not focused on the kid or being Mrs. Smith's little boy. That guy's focused on safety. And when you focus in a fight or flight, all the blood leaves the front part and goes back here. This is all your decision-making, critical thinking. You are now devoid of that because you've been starved of blood. It's back here in the fight or flight. Effectively, your IQ is down to about 75. You can't think. So he's not acting, he's reacting. And some people go, oh, I thought it was a spider. That's because we don't act on what's real, we act on what we project in the case of danger. That's the cop. I said, but if you want to take that scenario and want to look at the focus, 2 families now devoid of sons. Because no matter if that cop goes to jail or doesn't come, he's not going to be that same person anymore. The other family whose boy was shot, they're deprived of. You have 2 hurting families. That's what you have. You have a cop person in law enforcement who's now a broken man or now hurt, or he's going to either try to justify why he was right, or he's going to live with guilt, and he's going to have all these things. And now he's got to walk this line with some he's the devil, and some he's an angel. But to him, I'm just a guy. And at that moment, neither one wanted to be in that situation. This is reality. The rest, the story, we call that truth.
Right. And
truth has to be defended. But it's not truth. It's reality that has to be defended. There are humans that are suffering. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what side of the equation you're on. The reality in this situation is that when people identify with flags and identify with badges, they're denying their own and other people's humanity when we're all just humans. You're right. Some people, and I know the police officer tell me, yeah, but some humans don't act human. Now think about how they must have to live their life and what must have happened to life for that to happen. Because nobody's just born that way.
Right.
It's not a bleeding heart literal point of view. It's a matter of that not everybody sees the world the way we see the world. And some people think, but there's just things that humans know. Do you know that we didn't know what heat was until the 1800s? They used to think heat was this ubiquitously invisible liquid that went through. It was called caloric. Calories measure caloric. They didn't know it was convection or radiation of heat. They didn't know that until the 1800s. So what we think is universal, everybody knows knowledge, is not so much. And understanding that people are where they are and not putting them through your filters is a highly important thing to do in the world today. But it takes far more intellectual bravery and honesty than I think some people are really willing to evince.
Yeah, and it's a tough balance because, I'm still somewhat of an activist. I'm kind of retired. I like to call myself a retired activist because I put in my time.
Sure.
And I'm old enough now where I can let the 20-year-olds go to jail and be activists and stuff. But it's like I want the police officer situation to get better in terms of, but how do most people do it? Cop watch. The cops, they hate cops. Sure. They spread videos of cops being idiots, and it's like that's going the exact opposite direction. If you actually want this to resolve and you want less bad cop situations, then you don't do what we're doing now with spreading the word of how awful cops are and stuff like that. It's not the way to fix it.
Most cops, I think, would be served by getting this idea that I am a cop, right? The Jewish word for the name of God, I am. You're not a cop. It's what you do. It's not who you are. Yeah, you ask most people, so tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a cop. No! I said, what are you? Who are you? Not what do you do. What you do is what you think of yourself. Your behavior doesn't define you. It's just an indicator of who you think you are. But who you are is infinitely more. But most people, no clue.
So who are you?
Clue. The thing is what am I not is a shorter list. It would take far less time for these people. The thing is I can be anything, I've been a hero for some people, and, there have been refugees in Bosnia, and I helped a lot of them get out and all. I'm a murderer to some, right? There are people in Afghanistan and different places that I'm sure I'm the devil. Oh, I'm the devil. Oh my God. Some places, like one guy told me, he's like, you Americans. I'm like, whoa. Why am I an American? How did I get to be an American? What did I mean American?
Why did I sign off?
And they're like, well, you're from America. I have not spent nearly as much time in America as outside of America. And while America's a great place, what is America? It's dirt. There are Americans, and that's a lifestyle, and God bless them, and I think they're amazing people. But I don't identify myself with them because I'm not that limiting. There are so many things. I've been with so many cultures. There's so many great things. And, some people do the whole trite thing. Well, I'm a citizen of the world. I'm not a citizen of anything. I'm a guy on a rock floating around in space. I've got no idea where the hell that is.
Yeah.
I know this. You're a man. I don't care if you're from Pakistan. I don't care if you're from Sumatra. I don't care if you're from Bengal. I don't care if you're from Kyrgyzstan. My kidney fits in you. If you need me, if you need help, I'm going to help you. That's what I know. But this idea of carving up the world, carving up the block, is what keeps people constantly at odds, because they get this sort of, mindset where, well, we do this and you do that, and it's like, hey, yeah, great, skin that alive, man, do your thing, but I got nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to impede or impugn anybody for their beliefs. And the Presbyterians are like, Jesus' way is the way. You damn right it's the way. Handle your business. It's when they say,
the only way.
Well, if you don't do it, then what? You could burn me alive. I'm still not doing it. You're not getting catharsis. The fact is a Presbyterian, a Catholic, a Buddhist, anybody who lives their true beliefs is a good person to ever walk the planet. But that's between you and Source. It ain't between you and anyone else. It's where people constantly go around into other people's lives, meddling without even cleaning up their own damn backyard. Right. There is no mandate to put a goddamn cape on and fly around this world saving the planet. We're fine.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for a lot of people in the spiritual community. They have this weight that they carry, that they're here, and a lot of them think that they're part of a mission to stay joined. And I was one of them. Don't get me wrong. I was one of them. Like I said, it took me 4 years to call myself a healer and 2 months to say I'll never call myself a healer again. Because it's on a premise, built on a premise that people need healing, and I think the true art of being a good healer is to remind people you don't need a healer.
Sure.
Like, hey, you're already healed, you're perfect. But I wanted to also mention that a lot of times it's easy to forget how many things in society separate us, right? Sure. I mean, for me and you to feel one and feel connected, right? Sure. We have to have the same religion. We have to be from the same country, patriotism, sure. Right? We have to like the same political candidates. So now we have to be in the same political party. Now there's football teams. We have to align with the same football team. Sure. It's like, and there's all these different ways to have us at odds, and sure. Bickering, and it's like, can we just toss all that away? I think, those things. I'm a deist who is a Houston Texans fan, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm a, American, and it's like each one of these things is just, the reality is we're on a spaceship, flying through space.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together,
sure.
And we could keep trying to separate ourselves from that reality, but that's what I
sure. see. And that's sort of where that carving the block becomes its most insidious face, is where we look at the census and we identify, how do you identify a person, right? One of the most sad things I ever saw, I don't really watch the news, I don't have a TV, I don't watch the news, I don't do any of those things, but I saw recently Supreme Court Justice died, Antonin Scalia, right? They call him a hard right-winger and all his dissents and all. And some people are like, he's a lion of the Supreme Court, right? And that's normal. But I saw something that was pretty hard for me to see, where it said, one guy said, Scalia was found dead. Christmas has come early. And I was like, how can you say that about another person? What's so interesting to me is Antonin Scalia was great friends with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who are vastly opposite on the spectrum of political beliefs, but they were two people. What's interesting to me is that people get all this rhetoric and all this heat and all this angst, and that really is just a matter of dissatisfaction in life. And you were talking earlier about war. I find that there's really no such thing as war outside. All the war is inside. Guys who go to war, they're not these happy-go-lucky, well-adjusted scholars. These are people who sincerely are conflicted, and that crucible, for some reason, to them makes sense, and they go through that process. And it makes sense from when the artist goes, war's inhuman. For some people, modern art is inhuman. Right. But everybody's got their path, and I'm not a proponent of war. But at the same time, if you've any type of history education, you realize that it's always been here, because something inside of humans work things out that way. I don't think it's the best, and I'm not all that enamored with it, but I deal with reality. Yeah. And the reality is you got two people, Palestinians and Jews, who are that fundamentally different, arguing about some of what looks on the outside to be nothing, to them it's the world. But you know, there's one unifying factor. And this is probably something that most people will deny, they'll argue. I probably will get a million, you know, people over my course of my life hating me for it. You know what really makes us all the same? We're doing our best. Some people use this, you know, trite thing, because we're all human. What does it mean? Are we humans having experiences, or are we divine beings here to have a human experience, right? I guess it depends on which way you want to look at the coin. But the reality is everybody is doing their best.
Yeah.
What you call your best is different than what the ISO guy is calling his best. But don't mistake, everybody's doing their best.
Yeah. When I started looking into looking at what I'm making wrong and become okay with it is part of my practice, you know. And it's like I came up with this phrase that I love, that I lean on when I need it. And it's like, am I okay living with a bunch of crazy ass souls that chose a crazy ass planet to learn their crazy ass lessons? Like, in other words, if this is a dream, I believe it is, am I okay with these other dreamers selecting a really wild dream to get this really wild experience and get some really juicy lessons out of it? Like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I believe that I came to Earth knowing that this would be a pretty crazy place, pretty wild, emotional, you know, the spectrums of emotion is huge here, and lots of wild stuff going on. Like, am I okay with letting two people that are involved with war or murder or molestations, and they may have their soul contracts or all that, but am I okay with them doing that? And my answer is always, yeah, you know, like, I'm okay with crazy lessons being learned.
You know, and that, you know, we have the choice, but at the same time, the paradox is, right, we really don't have a choice. Whether you're okay with it or not, that's going to happen.
Happening, yeah.
The reality of life is it's really not a choice. It's going to happen. And when you say, I'm going to go eradicate this, you will foment far worse in your attempt to stop this. What happens is, Daoism has almost zero dogma. Don't wrong. There's some very religious Daoists, but that's more Chinese focused. Very religious Daoists. But no, it's like all things return to source, right? That's a very, very universal principle. But in the end, it's like you really just have to rectify your own heart, and then you've rectified the whole world. Everything outside of you that you lament, don't like, don't want, is you. It's you. How would you know what to see if it wasn't already in there? Right? Yeah. For example, I went to Nigeria. Oh, it's a great story. Really great guy. A friend of mine was a judge in Nigeria, in Lagos. And he says to me, yes, sir, would you like to go with me, sir, to my home? I would like to introduce you to my wife and my children. I'm like, okay. So we went, he had a wife and 4 kids. It was great. We ate dinner. He says, in the morning, I need to go to Abuja, the capital, to file some papers. I said, okay, let's go to the capital. So we drive a couple of days, and he shows me some amazing country. I love that country. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, the Yoruba people traditionally. And we get to his capital, and he says, we filed some stuff, and he's like, tonight we dine in I have a home in the capital, where I stay while I'm here. And so tonight we will dine here. So we go there, and there's a woman there, and I said, hello, how are you? And he said, this is my wife. These are my 3 children. I'm like, Richard, look, I'm not here to judge. You know me. I'm Daoist. We don't do that. But Richard, does she know about your wife in Lagos? Why, of course. She was there for my wedding. Yes, of course she does. I was like, she knows? Yes, of course. I was like, wow. Okay. And he's like, we will go the day after tomorrow to Port Harcourt, down in the eastern seaboard of Nigeria. I will take you to my house there. I was like, you got anybody there? You got anybody down there I should know? Well, I have my wife and kids down there. So I was like, oh my God, dude. So we get down there. And so I said to him, we had done a little drink, and I said to him, Richard, so you got 3 houses and 3 wives and 3 cities. Like, how does that work? He's like, it's a very normal thing here. You see, in Nigeria, if you can afford a house, you can put a family in the house. This is how it goes. So after the wife had, put the kids down, and she'd been drinking, I said to her, I said, look, I don't mean to pry. You tell me to shut up if you want, but like, as a woman, are you okay with this, or just culturally this is what you do? She's like, oh God, my husband is a wonderful man. He's such a good soul. But his libido is much more higher than I want a person to take care of. I'm thankful to God for my sisters to help me take care of him. I'm like, wow, wow, that's insane, you know? And yet, society didn't fall apart. There wasn't anarchy. There wasn't lawlessness. I'm not a proponent of polygamy or polyamory or monogamy. I'm not a proponent of anything. I'm a proponent of, please just live your damn life and stop, you know, sort of making it a big deal how other people live their life. I think the biggest problem is most people aren't okay with how they want to live. Or they're looking for permission, and since they don't have permission, you don't have permission. And when people are happy, I'll be damned, because misery doesn't love company, it demands company, you know?
Yeah. How would things change if people like all at the same time let go of what society wants them to be and just become what they choose to be? You know,
we
like,
call that Daoism.
Just let go of society's.
Yeah, we call that Daoism.
Yes.
So society is sort of this negative, and I don't mean negative in positive, negative, good or bad. I mean negative is in like when you have a photograph, right? When you take the picture, you get the negative. You have to develop it to look the way it's supposed to look. Society tells us how to think, how to feel, how to act. This is okay, this is not okay, right? Girls growing up, you got to be a good girl or to get your love, and then nobody ever defines this ubiquitously vague goddamn concept of what good girl is. So little girls are constantly skipping and jumping and, you know, bodying and all these things.
Reading
Big good
Cosmo.
girl, you know, Cosmo, Elle, Red Book, Marie Claire, Vanity Fair, and you're like, you know, those are Photoshop. Why are you doing that? They're like, I know, but I like the articles. Wait a minute, that's what we say about playing with wigs. But that's the thing, right? There's all these standards, there's all these shoulds. And when you should all over yourself, right? You live by these shoulds, these expectations. Expectations are resentments under construction. You start to go, who can live like this? To live the way, you know, Christianity before it was called Christianity was called the way. Judaism was called the way, right? Moses was told that there was a cloud of smoke by day and a pillar of fire by night. It was an angel in there, and it was to keep them in the way, right? Buddhism, the Dhamma is the path, the teaching is the way. You know, it's this idea of the way. It's how life naturally flows, right? Animals, we don't have birds with, you know, spiritual crusades. We don't have, you know, these things don't happen. There's this sort of living in harmony with things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking Disney where warthogs and lions and meerkats sing Hakuna Matata. But at the same time, when I was on the Serengeti one time, I saw a lion eating a baby wildebeest, and it mauled the hell out of that wildebeest. But I didn't look away because there was no violence in it. There was no malevolence. There was no malfeasance or malefaction in that lion. The lion was doing what a lion does. The wildebeest was doing what a wildebeest. And people, you know, read George Orwell's Animal Farm, and they sort of personify and anthropomorphize and go, oh, that poor wildebeest. Why is it a poor wildebeest? Maybe it was an asshole wildebeest. Maybe no other wildebeest like that wildebeest. Maybe the lion did a favor. I don't know. Who the hell I don't know.
And maybe the wildebeest understands the circle of life.
Sure.
And as it's dying, it's like, hey, at least I'm being recycled. You know, somebody's going to get energy from my molecules.
But even then, you know, even to go to that, that's still sort of a justification. The wildebeest is like, this is my life. And the lion's like, this is my life. And eventually that lion may end up being eaten by hyenas. You know, the thing is we have this justice model where good people get good, bad people get bad, bad better never get good, good better never get bad. That never happens. Bullshit. Call them flag. No. It's not justice. And that's the thing. And the universe is kind of going. For example, people tell me, you know, we need to save our environment. Okay. I can stipulate that it's good that we clean up after ourselves. I will speak on behalf of all moms everywhere. They've been telling their kids all the time, clean up your goddamn mess. Yeah, that's a thing. But you know this idea that we're trashing the planet. And I find that most people who say that don't actually travel much. Yeah. People say to me, oh, the planet's polluted. Walk the Gobi Desert. Walk the Sahara Desert. Don't take National Geographic or anybody else's word for it. Go find out. I have, in fact. That's why I can say this. This planet's bigger than you can imagine. We take a small place because of telecommunications, but I'm telling you, it's a big-ass planet.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I think so many people are like, oh, poor Mother Earth. And, you know, to me, I believe everything's a being. I believe there's beings and molecules and atoms, and Mother Earth is a being.
Sure.
And I certainly think she's advanced past suffering for all these things I think, if anything, she thinks it's cute that the humans are having some issues right now.
Sure.
But we put so much into her suffering. It's like, no, that's your shit. Humans, keep it. Like it's your suffering. Stop putting it on Mother Earth. She's fine. Like Mother Earth is just a muse that she has 8 billion little loving things, and she gives equal love to all of them.
Sure.
She doesn't hate the guy that litters and love the hippie that recycles. She loves everybody, and that's what an advanced being does.
Sure. And if you look at it, that sun is give or take 3 billion years from now will go to become a red giant, and it's going to consume Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Earth, and it's all kind of quaint and droll.
Right.
Hope
it's clean when that happens.
Yeah, don't want that to get
we don't have any landfills when that happens.
And again, and I guess I know a lot of people are going to do this. They're going to go, I can't believe they're so glib. It's not glib. Yes, take care of where you live. Don't do it for the planet. Do it for you.
Yeah, do it for selfish reasons. Like I want more polar bears, so I'm going to look into what I can do to help the ice caps because I think polar bears are cool. But then there's a whole lot better energy to that than, oh, poor Mother Earth, I'm going to be her warrior and champion for her and be her.
Yes, but right, this will go back to the identity. There's the hero, right? The hero, the villain, right? Everybody wants to be important, right? So we have the need for certainty, we have the need for variety, we have the need for connection and significance so that we can grow, we can contribute. And we need those needs. They're non-negotiable needs. And we want to go and do this on behalf of the Earth. What about you? Do it on behalf of you.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say, I love polar bears, I think they're cool. Because you don't live with them.
Yeah, if I got mauled by one, I may change my opinion. And then I'd be a proponent for the ice caps melting.
Oh, true story. True story. There are, if you're a natural predator or something, you've eaten 100 of it within a year's time frame. So polar bears are natural predators of humans, right? And I think to myself, with all the polar bears and all, Eskimos are probably like, finally, we're free. But somebody once told me, like, there was a kid, it was in Boulder, Colorado, I'll never forget, it's a very green place in Boulder, and the kid said to me, do you want to join Greenpeace? I'm like, why? They're destroying the rainforest in Indonesia. I'm like, wow. When you were in Indonesia, tell me what you saw. He said, what? I don't understand what you're asking. You were in Indonesia, the rainforest is being destroyed. Please show me. Or what? When you were there, what did you see? Just tell me. He's like, I didn't go. How do you know? We have pictures. Oh my God, are you kidding me? And then they say it's these big corporations, and I'm like, big corporations? There are no big corporations. Aren't people? There's 1 million people in a big corporation. The janitor working for that corporation, he's culpable.
Yeah.
The guy chopping down that is looking to make 10 cents an hour. He just wants to, it's his rainforest as far as concerned. But you say, we need to save the rainforest because you don't live in a rainforest. Anybody who, I just say, here, you stay in the rainforest for 1 week. I guarantee you try to burn the damn thing to the ground, man.
Yeah, and a great example of that is I was in Ecuador for Christmas, right, visiting a buddy, and we're driving across the landscape or whatever, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. What's that? And he's like, oh, that's a palm plantation. And I'm like, a palm plantation? He's like, yeah. I'm like, he's like, what do they make? He's like, palm oil, stuff. I'm like, well, I've been told I need to like boycott palm oil because it's getting rid of all the palm rainforest and all this. Well, I mean, but they're taking down rainforest to plant palm trees, and that's against the rainforest. So I need to not buy palm oil, even though it serves some purposes in what I do.
Sure.
It's a great thing to blend with. And I'm like, so you're telling me like I'm boycotting these farmers out here in Ecuador that I've never met, that took down some forestry and put up some palm trees because they were trying to make a living for themselves on the land that they owned. And now I'm boycotting these people. And that's what I was doing without thinking about it until I went to Ecuador and saw it.
Nobody thinks about it because here's the idea, right? Corporations. There's no humans in corporations. They're just corporations. They're the evil. Monsanto. Has anybody ever thought of looking up Monsanto's address and be like, hey, Monsanto, get out of here. I'm going to kick your ass. Because, like, who is Monsanto?
Right.
If you look at the corporate structure over the last 10 years, it has not stayed the same. Every time you make a Monsanto, make a corporation, make Nazis, What you're doing is dehumanizing, so I can put all this anger and angst and all this. For the people out there like, I hate this guy. Don't hate me. Choose something very simple. Don't waste your time hating me. All the places in the world that need saving, please just buy a plane ticket, go see for yourself with true sincerity. If you really want to save it, go look at it, walk around, talk to the people who live there. Don't talk to the people who make money off of eco-tourism and eco-friendly. That as long as I can make you feel something, I can make you buy something, right? The guy who sold flags for the gay marriage and for the Confederate flag, he was selling both and making both, right? Because we have an us and them, right? Simply go out and figure it out. Listen to people. Listen to their stories. And then you go, oh, you're just trying to make a living like I'm trying to make a living, right? Because what you do in those cases is the same thing ISIL does to us. Same thing, right? People over there, they're like, you know, you Americans, who the hell are you Americans? You're talking about people in Kentucky. You're talking about people in Washington. You're talking about people in Maine. You're talking about people in Alabama. Hell, Appalachia alone is like its own country. I'm not even sure they care who's in the White House. They're like, I don't care. It's Appalachia.
Yeah.
Just don't come up to
I
my
don't think
driveway.
they know who's in the White House.
They don't even
much less
care. And they're not stupid. They're just like, I don't care. I can run a trot line. And I can, you know, build my own house. I can dig my own still. I don't really care. That's the thing. You can't make these names and dehumanize entire swaths of populations and then think, well, I'm better than them because I'm human. I'm a good person. They're a them. You just need to dehumanize. You've destroyed way worse than a rainforest. You've taken away another person's humanity.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm sure you know about the Illuminati.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
their label, right?
Oh, sure.
Like, well, so let's assume for the point of this argument that or discussion that the Illuminati does exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they run the most powerful banks, and they're in charge of getting people elected in politics and global everything, global banking, global politics. Well, who could actually change the world with a snap of a finger? It's whoever's running the freaking Illuminati.
Sure.
So if we really want to like change things, what we should focus on is getting friendly with the Illuminati and showing them that, hey, what if we did this? You could make some money by making these things eco-friendly. You could actually turn a better profit than with Monsanto that you're a part of or whatever. And so like if we really want to change things, let's focus on becoming friendly with the Illuminati. That's why I drive my friends crazy, because I have all these conspiracy theorist friends and I'm always talking about how I'm in the Illuminati because they own, Chase Bank owns my house. Sure. They cash my checks. Sure. That makes me part of the Illuminati. So I'm like, I get their newsletter. Pretty great. Sure.
You know what?
Pretty awesome, actually.
They're pretty munificent dictators, you know? Here's what I say. You know who runs the world? Every individual watching this. The Illuminati can't make me be mean to you.
Right.
They can only influence how I feel at the moment, and then I can say, because I felt this way, I have a right to hurt you. There's no ever reason ever for bad behavior. I'm speaking for every 3-year-old's mom ever. Don't hit. The Illuminati can't make me hit you. I have to go, well, I have a right to hit you. You never have a right to hit another human being. Never have a right to hit another human being. If a person comes in your house, you're right to defend your house. But that's a different subject than going out and hitting another person. I can sit down, and I have, right? I've studied with Jews. I've studied with Kabbalic rabbis, Sufis, Sikhs, Jains, Swamis, Gnostics, Voduns, people, right? The Yoruba tribe, the Ifa, right? Great people. In the beginning, the world started with a chicken. I'm like, a chicken? Cool. How does that work? Like, okay, chicken does this and makes a ball of dirt, and that dirt became the earth. And I was like, where did the chicken get the dirt to make the earth? These are my spiritual beliefs, man. Don't make fun of it. Like, totally not making fun of it. Every good creation story starts with this chicken. Do I give a shit if that? What's that going to do with me? You're happy and passionate about talking about a chicken.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're passionate. You see, I don't focus on truth. Who cares?
Right.
Like, even if it is true, you can't prove it. I can't prove it. What matters is not what those are. Is how can I love you, Joseph? And how can I love you? The Illuminati cannot. If I have a firm, fixed, absolute commitment to loving you, what can the Illuminati do? They can only control me if I give up my will. There's one unbreakable law in the universe, which is called the law of free agency, the law of free will, free choice. You cannot break that. I might have experimented and tried at some points in my life, but it cannot be done. You cannot break free will. If the Illuminati comes in like, Joseph is a member of us, and he's killed a lot of people, I had the choice to go, Joseph, what happened? Why did you do that? And you might say, oh, because they deserve to die. Wow, what they do. If I listen to you and I truly care, I can influence you, but I can't influence you if I'm judging you. And if I truly understand you, I can just ask you questions. You may never change your mind. But guess what? They can't stop me from loving you. I don't know why Mao Zedong did what he did, but he believed it was right. I don't know why Joseph Stalin did what he did. I don't know why Hitler did what he did. But I know that whatever it was, to create that much pain and suffering, there had to be a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
If I constantly make devils out of people, I live in a world with devils.
Well, and if you know, I don't know that I believe this, but there's a theory that, you know, December 12, 2012 was the tipping point, moving into the age of Aquarius, which one of the things I've heard means that we're no longer going to have to learn from contrast. We can actually just choose a desire and go towards it. In other words,
sure.
In the past, humans have kind of got addicted to learning, this is what I don't want. Oh, okay, now I know what I do want. So that was our way of learning from contrast. Well, if that was the case, then somebody like Adolf Hitler could be looked at as a huge healer or a gift to humanity because he had an entire planet go, wait a second, that's not what we want.
Sure.
Like, this isn't right. Like, this isn't what we want. This is not how we want to live our lives. This is unloving. We're going to choose a different path, which is loving. Sure. And, you know, so from that perspective, as a soul, you know, up before Carnation, they might have been like, hey, we need somebody to play this role. You're going to be hated. You're going to be, you know, every time people mention your name, people are going to think bad things. And Adolf's like, you know, I'll take this one. Sure. You know, so.
Sure, but, you know, but think about this. Genghis Khan. Some people, he's the greatest thing ever. Some people, he's a devil. This is the eye. This is the perspective. When we think life should be this way, the fact is I don't give a damn what you think life should be. You cannot place expectations on life, right? People have this idea that you go to school, you get your degree, you get married, 2.7 kids, go through that 401k, pension, and then you die. That's how it should be. And life does this, and you go, that's not fair.
Where's my retirement?
And life's like, what in the hell are you talking about? I was in Redwood Forest for a Daoist retreat one time. And I remember the guy was driving, and I was sitting in the passenger seat looking out the window, and it was the Redwood Forest, and I'm from Northern California, so I was kind of looking there. And the guy says to me, hey, I got Tom there, and he says, hey, be looking for a road coming. We need to make that turn. So I'm watching the road. And I'm watching the road. And the guy says to me, hey, you know, you need to make a turn. You're coming up here. I'm like, okay, I'm watching. And I say, come on, there's a road. Where's the road? I'm like, there's no road. And the guy looks at me and he goes, what do you mean there's no road? This right here is a road. I'm like, are you getting pissed at life? It doesn't match Tom? Are you kidding? But that's how we do, right? Tom tells us the map, not the terrain. Life doesn't have a map. We make a blueprint of life and we say, this is how we think life should be. But the reality is that the terrain is the terrain. And whether you take a map to Yosemite and you go, oh, yeah. But guess what? Yosemite's Yosemite. And things change, rock slides, there's topographical, and you go, you've got to deal with things as they are. And in a dynamic world, that scares most people because they think their mindset and their doubt and their self, detriment, they say, oh man, what if I'm not enough? Or what if I can't? Or what if these things happen? It's like, yeah, well, it's great, but you just have to meet life where it is. That's what it means to be enough. Meet life where it is. Stop putting all this projected what ifs, because I could say, what if a unicorn on a comet comes and gives you rainbow milk from its teats? You could say that. It's about as effective as any other what ifs. The reality is you just have to stay in the present moment, watch what's happening, and just do that. Future lamentations, past recollections take you. It sort of makes a schism in your mind, and so you can't be here now. That mistake that you thought it was so bad, no bearing on your life, none. It means absolutely nothing. There's too much about it you don't even know. All you know is how you feel about it, and you just don't like feeling that way. But if you could go, then it has no control over you. What has control over you is that Buick about to run into you, or the ceiling about to fall. That has something to do with you. But you're not going to see that if you're sitting there looking and lamenting over that thing was happening, you know? And so that's kind of what it all comes down to. Some of the best people I've ever met have been Holocaust survivors. I mean, these are the most gentle, sweetest souls. And one of the things that I love about their persona is you go, man, you know, I'm having a lot of problems lately, and they just look at you like, you're adorable. How'd that guy get to be like that?
Yeah.
You know, there is no devils if there are no angels. Gandhi creates just as much problems in the world as Hitler does. Right?
Yeah, one of my favorite analogies is like, what if all 8 billion people went to bed and were told that tomorrow morning you can start creating your version of peace on Earth?
Sure.
Right? And just like really visualize what you feel is peace on Earth. Then the next day would be absolute freaking chaos and torment because they'd be like fighting for their version of peace.
Sure.
And it would just become this big, huge mess. And it just shows that like we're not ever going to agree on what's peace or what's right or where we should go. It's like, it doesn't work that way.
No, because people live by consensus, right? Everything's done by consensus. You have to agree with my idea of peace for it to really be peace. Because if you go, well, I want peace, and you go, that's your version of peace. I go, this is my version of peace. How can we both be right? This isn't the same. It is for you. The fact is somebody truly living peace, enslavement of people, I don't know anybody who calls that peace. You can say that leads to peace because it keeps the rabble and but that's not really peace. The idea of peace is you can be in this moment right now and everything be okay. Dallas, one time I got this from a teacher who I thought was just amazing. And so, you know, there's a golden rule, right? Do unto others, you'd have them do unto you. But he said, no, for Daoism, you could almost say that the Taoist golden rule is the one law of the universe, which is, you know, maybe. That's the only universal law there is, maybe. Under what context? Context tells you everything, right? So you could say to me, you know, if everybody was loving each other, that would be peaceful. Maybe.
For a while.
But what if people don't like love? Some people don't want love. Some people want nothing to do with love. That's just not the way they're made. Some people don't want, joy and jocularity. They don't want it. So maybe it's about knowing the context in your audience. You actually have to be present enough and stop putting everything through your filters and how your life should be to go. For Mongolians, their idea of peace and everything is a ton different than the Inuit. Okay, but it works for them. Do that. Right? Stop being the arbiter of other people's reality and allow people their reality. And you'll find that you get these groups of people, and we used to call those nations in the old days, or tribes, because communities support the individual. Societies have to kill the individual. That's the very nature of society. It becomes a machine. It has to work on clockwork, and it has to do the hours, you have to do these things, and the time, right, with the suffering. And then if you don't fit in the machine, you're a misfit. And, you know, but communities build. All of that we've done here, for example, with the Four Dragons Institute and the Daoist, it's just made a community. I've had people have so many reactions to this community. People are like, is it a cult? No, why would, well, but you guys all believe a lot, and you guys all do some weird things.
But maybe it is a cult, because cult actually, I had to look this up because I was blamed for being, in a cult and whatnot, and cult means culture. So I was like, sure. Is it a culture? Yeah, maybe.
Sure. It's
just another language, like just another word that people use, and they cut the word in half, and they're like, oh, cult, it's horrible.
Sure.
Well, we've created a culture here. Oh, that's great. You've created a culture. Oh, that's good.
Exactly.
It's
always language, right? The language used to define the event becomes the event. That's how it becomes. And in this particular case, it's just people who are working on wherever they are. Some are going through the dark nights of soul, and others are coming into the morning dawn. Everybody going, wherever you are, you be there, we're good. That's how we are. And that's really what we've kind of made here. And so there are people here that you could say, some people would say they're battling depression. They're not battling depression. They're actually coming to make a relationship with it and going, hi, depression. It's okay that you're here today. Because let's say you're in depression, and you're like, oh, You again? How would that feel? That sucks. Get more depressed. But when you look so deeply into the self, this generally will lead to depression. There's a lot of you can't be depressed. You have to do it. It's an action. You have to use your body in a certain way, right? Shoulders before, breathing shallowly, looking constantly, using words like me, my, I, self, don't care. The focus has to be on all the crap in the world. That's how you do depression. Anybody tells me they're depressed, like, okay, we can work with that. That's an easy thing to work on. People, that's not an easy thing to work on. Yeah, it is. I've worked with a lot of them. They have most of them very successful lives. And the reason why? One guy was like, you cannot cure depression. And I was like, all right, we went down to the parking lot down there and they put some rubbing alcohol on and lit his pants on fire. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't look too depressed to me. Because it's a pattern. People get into patterns. Humans are pattern creatures, right? Cows on their cow trails, deer on the deer trails, horses take their trails, and humans, we have our, right? We get up in the morning, we drink our coffee, we go through our routines and our rituals. We are only as successful at rituals, and you constantly do these rituals over and over. It will lead to anxiety or depression or happiness or anything else. You have to create patterns. All we do here, all the Tao is pattern your life after the way that nature naturally goes for you. It's not a standard, it's not my Tao, it's your Tao and how you flow within it. And the artist can sit there and think conceptually in colors and all these things, and the physicist over here, and what the physicist used to be like, hippie. And there, the other guy's like, science dweeb. Now they're both going, we talk about the same thing, we just use different words. Because we're both doing our best, right? It's the common theme, do your best.
Thanks.
And everybody's doing their best. When we talk about right now, like for example, I do distance education mostly.
What does that mean?
Distance education. So people can study with me from anywhere in the world now, but they don't have to do it through, they can do the Taoist, but even the non-Taoist track, which is none of the Taoist dogma, just the skills, it's always about learning to change your patterns within your life, how you view the world, your perspective, your focus, your language, how you define things, and the way that you use your body. And if you change that enough, your literally world changes overnight without anything ever having to change. It's a pretty impressive feat. And it's a pretty interesting thing because all people have to do is get out of their patterns, right? You're a retired activist because you're not doing the same patterns of activism that you used to do. Why? Because they were probably taking everything you wanted out of life from you. I'm an activist, I want peace. Activists don't know peace.
Right.
They're the most unpeaceful people on the planet. I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, and this was after the 60s, obviously, but a lot of the hippies and all of them out there, and they're like, hippie, we're just for the free love and the free peace. I'm like, you realize a lot of domestic terrorism and violence happened at the hands of hippies, right? There's a lot of people who got really hurt because hippies were like, we're going to fight against Vietnam. Wait, you're fighting war? Do you find that odd?
Right.
It's like parents who scream at their kids, would you relax? And you're like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I think, I don't know how much you're into law of attraction.
Oh, sure.
Right, into law of attraction. So if my sole purpose is justice,
sure,
I'm going to probably incarnate into a lifetime and get some injustice because that's what I came here for. I wanted to play. So that's why a lot of activists have things happen to them personally that are so unfair and like I've got to fight this, and then something will happen to their best friend because their best friend's into the same thing. Like, see, that's unfair too, and this is unfair. It's like everything's unfair because their sole purpose is justice. But if they can let that go and be okay with what is, then that's the transformation out of that. And not to say that that's the right thing. I mean, it's nothing wrong with spending your whole life as an activist and being pissed at injustices. That's okay.
Not a thing in the world. One thing I can tell you is, even though the people who come to me as students, some are disciples, some are just clients and patients of mine, I tell them, you will change, but do understand I am not asking you to change. One lady, she's one of the nicest, sweetest ladies, with Rose. She's really good. She's from Long Island. She's Italian. She's like, and her husband recently died. His name was Joe. She's like, and she was like, my husband died. I was like, your husband died? That's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear it. And he's like, he's an asshole. I'm like, oh, so congratulations? Who congratulates someone on their husband? I don't know where to go with this. So she says to me, I just need help. I've gotten sick. I'm like, well, what kind of sick? I've got cancer. I've got emphysema. I've got diabetes, and my kidneys are shutting down. Sounds like you're having some health problems there. She goes, do you think you can help me? I'm like, okay. How much longer would you like to live? And at the time, she was 78 years old. So how much longer would you like to live? She's like, who wants to stay in this piece of shit place? I don't want to stay. I'm like, so why do you want to get better? Who wants to be sick all the time? I said, so how would you like to go? I don't want to die. But you just said you don't want to stay here. God, no, this place sucks. How do you plan on getting out of here without dying? I don't know. Give me other options. So I said, can I just ask you a question? Are you happy? Look at me. I'm the pinnacle of happiness. I said, when was the last time you were happiness? What are you talking about? I've been like this my whole life. Now, answer me this. Is she happy? Some people think happiness is joy. Joy is an emotion. Happiness is not an emotion. It's a state. How we use our focus, how we use our body, how we use our language, and that gives us our state. Some people it's peace. Some people it's activism. Some people it's bitterness. But the one you do the longest part of your life is the one that you basically become happy with. Because if you weren't happy, you wouldn't stay in it.
Right.
Right? You say, I live in hell. At least you know where the light switches are. You don't break your toes when you go off, to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Yeah, you may suck, but guess what? It's your hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I have this theory that maybe souls are all loving it. The people that complain and bitch all the time, they love that. That's what they get off on, and that's okay,
They use that to define. That is an identity. That's the thing. It's always an identity. Our identity creates the meanings we have in our life. And our meanings then predicate our behavior. If you change your meanings, the identity has to change. I will give you all something that I teach my students, my distance students, everybody, that is the most truest thing in the world that I found for walking the planet. And this, I have never seen an exception in all the millions of people I've met. Nothing is more powerful in the psyche and physiology of a human being than you will do nothing that is not congruent with what you believe to be your identity. It will not happen. It will not happen. If I had an Episcopal priest. Oh, I love this woman. She's such a beautiful woman. She says to me, I wish I could just serve God more. I'm like, you're an Episcopal priest. I thought that was your job description. She's like, no, I'm helping the parishioners, and yes, that helps God. But I wish I could just give more devotion time myself, just directly to God. I was like, well, do that. But I have such, requirements, and I have so many obligations to the flock, and I just want to serve them, and I want to serve God. I'm like, okay. I said, let's do something. If I could give you the way to work 3 days a month, so you have 27 days where you could just serve God. You work 3 days a month, but after that, 27 days are yours. How much would you enjoy doing that? She's like, is it illegal? I'm like, no, it's not illegal. It's perfectly legal. She's like, that would be great. I don't know. I'm like, we'd have to relocate. There's a country called Thailand. And 1,000 baht are about $33 US. So if you did about 12 or 13 hand jobs for cash at about 1,000 baht each, I think in about 3 days' time you get 13 out of the way. You look like a queen for the rest of the month. You might even be able to set up more for next month. Hell, I'm telling you. She's like, I couldn't do that. I'm like, of course you could. You got hands. You've got phallus. Of course you could.
Even that's doing God's work.
Come on. They'll probably say God's name. Look at you. And she's like, I'm like, look, what I'm trying to illustrate here is that you can't, you won't. Because I'm an Episcopal priest. It doesn't match my identity. Right? You won't do anything that doesn't match your identity. People's identity are strangling themselves. But your identity creates all your meanings. For example, I'm a Hasidic Jew. I can't talk to anybody outside of the covenant. Your mouth doesn't work. Language doesn't work to anybody who's not under the covenant of Abraham. Well, I can actually physically talk, but it's forbidden by the law. The law says that they're not allowed to hear words coming from you. Like you look at these things and you're like, wow, that seems so arbitrary. But to them, no, you have to understand this is God. Their identity and those meanings make that an ironclad behavior. And I'm not talking about the rightness or wrongness. I'm definitely not making fun of them. But what I am saying is that there's entire groups of people who will not talk to anybody not inside that demographic because God or Zizop, Dawop, Bob, or the flying spaghetti monster, the Pastafarians, is not okay because of that, their meanings. And the problem is everybody's meanings and identity precludes other ones. That's where the us and them, and this is where the war comes from, right? But to sort of, it would say, well, sure, to get rid of identity, no, that would cause mass psychosis, right, in most people. Like people like Sufis and Sikhs, they seek to get rid of that, right? There's an old Native American, it's actually a South American native thing where we're talking about becoming a child of the sun, right? Because suns don't cast shadows. So you just become this being of light, the sun, right? And so you live basically free of story, identity, all of those things. And of course, I'm not saying, but to kind of loosen up a bit of the identity to where my identity isn't so tenuous that you can't be you, right? If you're a deist, and if I go, Taoists hate deists because people think Dao and Day are the same thing, but it's Dao and Zen, everybody knows. And then you get these crazy things, and it's like, we both have to pee next to each other at the same urinal, man. I think we're good, okay? Right. I think we're fine. But, it's this defense of an identity. And in the end, it's so interesting. People go to these self-help conferences and read self-help books. The number one category of books bought are self-help, People go to all these workshops and all of these things, and you sit there and you go, why do you want to do self-help? And you're like, we need to grow. I'm like, yeah, human need. You got to grow or you die. But then I go, because you're pretty much a loser, right? And they go, I'm not a loser. You go, you're trying to improve an identity because it's not what you want, but then you're going to defend an identity you don't even believe in. You see the conundrum here? You see the conflict? Yeah. This is what makes war on a big scale, is because people are at war with their own beliefs. They're so contradictory. You try to tell them that, no, it makes sense in my world. It's like, yeah, because you don't examine your own beliefs and go, we get our beliefs, right? Our beliefs are like stitches in the fabric of our life. We gain this belief, the law of attraction, right? The Secret came out, and Michael Bernard Beckwith, and Bob Proctor. Wow! It was a real movement, man. That was a real movement. It's a cult. And people get these beliefs, and they start weaving into the thread of their life, but they never looked at all the rest of their beliefs that were already there to see if that conflicts. So when this belief and this belief get lit off, now there's a conflict. This is where it gets people in real conundrums where I don't know if my life doesn't make sense, and I believe all these stupid things. It's not stupid. It's just we don't examine our beliefs because the world is the way we believe it to be. That's our blueprint. And the blueprint is, the map is the terrain. And we're not really sort of built into a society or built even into a community system that allows us to go, but why? Right? For example, what was the biggest type of activism you were involved in?
9/11 stuff.
Okay, right. So 9/11, truthers, and did, right? Okay. Do you ever stop to go, like if you were the guy, right? You're talking to those people and you went like this. I don't like Bush. They're like, yeah, screw Bush. I don't like Cheney. Yeah, screw Cheney. It's all about KVR and the Illuminati. Yeah, it's KVR. But like a lot of other people didn't like Bush. Like, yeah, nobody likes Bush. Get him on war crimes. And you look at the Bush administration, look at all the things that leaked. There was a lot of secrets and things that leaked out of the Bush administration. And I mean, admittedly, almost many people in the Bush administration didn't even like the guy. How would that stay secret? Like, I worked for the government for a while. They can't hold water. They can't keep secrets. Our own intelligence people can't keep secrets. We know what happens in Guantanamo. We know what happens in Qatar. We know what all. You can't keep secrets to save your life today. If you were to go, I don't think it actually happened like that because nobody keeps secrets. They're idiots. This is a government built and paid for by the lowest bidder. There's no way. Somebody making $20 an hour is not going to go, Yeah, I'm going to hide George Bush's secret. Nobody's going to do that. They don't care. And then you go, so if you were to say that to these people, even if you're just playing devil's advocate, you'd be ostracized out of that group. Therefore what? You can't say it, even though you may think it. But it's a viable truth. Somebody told me that. And so I was like, I don't know what happened. Here's what I know. Regardless of what happened, it happened. I can go figure that shit out, or I can go be happy in love those 3,500 families that now don't have people. I could choose where I put my focus, regardless of what happened in those buildings, to bring them to justice. How? Even if we took them out on a rail and strung them up, you think it makes those 3,500 people feel any better? Right. Does it make them any better people? Now you are no different than the people who ran those goddamn planes into those goddamn towers in the first place. Having the moral right to murder somebody is still murder. I'm not against the death penalty. I'm not for the death penalty. I just think it's odd that this person kills this person, now we're going to kill you. And then you think, we have a moral right to kill. What if somebody one day, the 435 people in the House and the 100 people in the Senate decide, you drink green tea, we're going to put you to death because you did genocide on green tea. That tea was not right. It was not ready. You done killed it, so we're going to kill you back. You murdered shit. You killed that plant, so you got to die. And it sounds extraneously stupid, but a lot of these arguments, and I'm not for the death penalty, but I'm not against the death penalty. What I'm for or against is people having a real conversation and stop digging your heels in on one subject. Stop looking at the way the other person presents it need to be right, but instead going, what the hell are we even talking about?
Yeah, and why are we stuck in the past? I mean, that's why I had to give it up. It was like, at the time it had been 6 or 7 years, and it's like, here's the big thing for me. Is it my place to get George Bush and Dick Cheney their justice? Or the new belief I have is it impossible to have injustice in the universe? In other words, this is my friend Pilar Marshall Torres taught me. She's kind of one of my spiritual gurus and friends. She said, it's impossible to have injustice in the universe. The universe has justice.
Sure.
Like there's, whether you believe in karma or not, there's similar type things where if these guys did this, for one, like my papa used to say, my grandpa used to say, they're the ones that have to look at themselves in the mirror when they shave. Like, they have to live with that. So that's justice right there.
Sure.
And is it justice to put them in jail and whatnot? What depends on what you believe, Sure. I mean, I believe that the universe is going to find its justice.
Sure.
And once I started believing that universal justice prevails, then I could retire from activism. Like, hey, I'm going to let the universe take care of justice, and I'm going to just focus on living.
Well, this is what we were talking about with the polar bears and all these people, this mandate to save the world. When you resign as general manager of the universe, sanity and happiness return.
Right.
People have this idea, like they need to be the goddamn champion of peace and justice and truth in the American way, put on their blue spandex or whatever and fly. Who has the perspective to understand what just is and isn't?
Yeah.
We don't know the things precluding all of those events. We don't know.
Yeah, other than it's a bunch of crazy souls learning crazy lessons on a crazy planet. That's all we know.
That's exactly that.
And even that we're not sure.
Because we don't know the truth about Bin Laden or not. We don't know. I mean, the devil, sure. I'm first to stipulate. That dude may or not, we don't know. We didn't live with it. We only know what? What we were told. As a Taoist, I have to directly experience reality, not what you tell me reality is, because now I'm going through your filters, I'm going to be wrong in my own life. I must directly experience life firsthand. And my experience of life firsthand tells me automatically, I have no idea what really happened. I know I saw 2 planes that morning. I watched them. I was watching the news. I watched the planes fly in. Now, was it rigged and all that kind of stuff? Sure, it was a TV screen. Could have been in a goddamn, studio for all the hell I know.
Right. There might have been holograms for planes. We don't know.
Quite honestly, I never actually went to the World Trade Center. I've been to New York a bunch, but I never actually went to there. How do I know there was even that plane, those pictures there of those buildings? I'm not saying they weren't there. Please don't say he's so crazy. I'm not. What I'm saying is all I know for sure is what I've experienced. But if in fact I don't know from first-hand experience, there has to always be the, do I know it's true? Can I absolutely know that that is true? And then I have to look at the pros and cons of what is my part? Let's say Bush and Cheney did that. What are you going to do? You personally going to go pull the key trigger? If you had them both in front of you and you had the gun and you just knowing what you know, you have no evidence, nothing, would you pull that trigger? Anybody around who says they did it, here's the gun. You really get to see then people sort of courage of their conviction. People are like, well, I'm not going to judge. You can judge. My point is all that takes away from those 3,500 people who absolutely need your love. But if you don't feel that love inside of you, you feel only anger and all, you're going to need to go to the Bush and Cheney and all that stuff because that's the outlet and catharsis for your shit.
Well, that's what I found. You know, I started around the same time I was giving up my 9/11 passion. I was finding passion for oneness. And when I was still in engineering, I went to a Nassim Haramein workshop and learned the physics of oneness. And like, it was proven to me that, yeah, here's some science that shows you we're one. Disprove it. And it's like, I can't. Like, okay, sure, maybe we're one. So for me to say, okay, we're all one, you know, but Dick Cheney and George Bush are assholes.
Sure.
Fuck them. I'm not one with them.
Sure.
It was not fair. It's not one. So I did a lot of work. A lot of my friends helped me with some of this. I explored into that and said, I'm going to find one with these guys. And like for George Bush, it's like, this guy was born into silver spoon. You know, he went to college, joined a fraternity. And next thing you know, this fraternity's doing all this crazy ass political stuff. And you know, he was just trying to snort coke and have some party time. Like, he was just trying to have a good time. Next thing you know, he kind of half wakes up and he's governor. And, you know, it's like his life was kind of scripted for him because he was born into one of these power families, you know.
But the thing is, even beyond all that, there's so much ad-libbing that we just really don't know what it's like. That guy might have got more self-hate and loathing than you will ever know. The thing is, we just don't know. When we say devils, these people are evil, all we're doing is taking pieces of ourselves that we don't like, putting on that guy, hating that guy.
No, absolutely.
That's all that is. Everyone we don't like, that's our shit, man. It's always us. Mm-hmm. To wake up to this oneness is that all these people are doing hold mirrors up for us. And we're going, I don't want you, I want to kill you. No, I just want to break that part of the mirror. You can, again, accept and allow, bring it all back in and go, yeah,
it's my stuff.
I'm kind of a dick, but I don't mind being a dick. Everybody needs to be a dick a little bit, I suppose. Then life starts to get a little bit different. When you stop doing the should, I shouldn't be a dick. I should. Do your best, but everybody is where they are. Helping each other through the vales and the valleys, up onto the peaks. We're all walking each other home, right? That's the purpose of all this. You know, in Daoism and putting this community together, it's just for people who want to walk each other home, right? As an abbot of Mount Qingshen in, in China, and having this sort of helping the West to understand Daoism, it's not about converting anybody to anything. Everybody's already a Daoist. You were born a Dao. You were born in the way. There's no way not to. Whether you call it Catholicism or you call it Protestant, you're still following the Dao. There's no teacher that teaches anything different. They dress it up with different, window dressing, but we all do the same thing. Incantation, enchantment, chanting, and prayer. It all comes back to this idea of to sing to, cancion, right? Incancion. This idea of to sing to something. Why? Because it works. It works. It's incontrovertible. Prayer works. How you do it, what you do it, why you do it, that's you. But the fact is we all do it because that's that unifying principle of us doing our best. My job as a Taoist outside of China and is not to convert anybody to Taoism and I want you to become a Taoist, Joseph. I want you to become Joseph. That's becoming a Taoist. One lady one day, she got her 7-year cancer-free from MD Anderson, and she says to me, I really feel like your principles and everything help me. I really want to become a Taoist. I'm like, you are a Taoist. Everyone's Taoist. Whether you want to identify and use the words or just do whatever, you're a Taoist. And she's like, no, but like I want like the ritual and the baptism. I'm like, And she's like, look, I know there's got to be ritual, right? I'm like, not rituals, but I mean, it's not only like, I don't know. She's like, could you just give me a ritual? I'm like, okay, get some 49-year-old Glenlivet. She's like, scotch? Yeah, yep. So her next appointment was at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. She bought a bottle of 49-year-old Glenlivet. I poured 2 glasses of it. I was like, all right, repeat after me. I'm uber Daoi, and Daoi's uber cool. She said, we drank. Welcome to Daoism. She's like, now if you start to feel the warmth down here, it means it took. She's like, I feel it. I'm like, hell yes. Another one saved. No, it's all silly.
That reminds me of I'm a big believer in like 10-second ceremonies. Like, so often people say like, oh, you know, I'm going through some hurt from this past relationship, and I can tell it's gonna, you know, take me a few years to get through. It's like, yeah, that's great. If that's what you believe, that's great. Or you can decide to take 10 seconds and just, you know, make a decision and stand by it. But
well, that's the thing. What makes people follow through with that or not are the patterns they do. Right?
Yeah.
If I have a pattern of focusing on they left me and all, and I focus and I use the language, they're a dirtbag and they left me and I'm abandoned, and I use my body and I do this with my body, well, I'm gonna feel it for 10 years. The minute I go, enough is enough. They're a wonderful person, they're following their path. I don't know what their path is, I'm no arbiter of their path. Sometimes paths do this, sometimes they do this, sometimes they do this. I'm not here to arbiter someone's path. I'm here to love them no matter what. Because if you can say to somebody, your path is going through darkness, as I'm getting ready into a tunnel, we don't know. There's no human on this planet having a really that different of an experience. We use different words to describe the experience, but it isn't a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at life is literally a dream, and that we all chose to participate in this dream together. That's why it's kind of fair play. Like, I do believe in free will. And the reason that things could happen to us that in this life we could think, oh, well, that's not free will, this was random. And we all agreed to participate in this dream called Earth right now, right? 3D, very dense reality compared to the rest of the spiritual world. And so it makes it easy for me to forgive, okay, all of these dreamers are ascended masters, or they wouldn't have been able to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll incarnate into Earth. I'll go to that crazy ass emotional, you know, roller coaster place. So it's a really easy way for me to forgive someone for whatever, you know, especially big, you know, Donald Trump to the universe and all that. Like, especially with Donald Trump, it's like really easy to see like he's playing a part, you know, like he's a part of the whole, and hey, he's got his place, and you know, it's going to serve the greater dreamer somehow. You know, like we're all unique perspectives are how we grow, and you know, and everyone here, I think all the humans on this planet have unique perspectives. So,
but you got to think. Donald Trump is one guy. He's been on this planet for, I don't know, how old is he? 50s, 50s, something like that. What the hell has that guy done recently that made him any different than he was 30 years ago? All he's done was say, I believe this. And people went, yeah, I believe this. That's not him. That's all those people going, yeah. He's just a symbol for an idea, right? They've just been doing this political science. Have been doing this thing on what's called authoritarianism, right? Authoritarians are simple, strong, and punitive. They keep the status quo by keeping the alien out and all this kind of thing. Donald Trump only says this. He himself is not running around doing anything.
Right.
People are running around going, I believe in Donald. You believe in Donald. I can't. People go, I hate Donald. Donald Trump put him on an island like Napoleon. He's useless, harmless.
Yeah.
People put these people in office and say, they've got the power. Where'd they get it from? It's these people. Don't look at Donald. Look at yourself. Look at your neighbor. Look at the people around you and go, how can I love you better today? How can I serve you better today? Right? If people loved and served each other and they went, hey, like for example, my neighbor, I have this great neighbor. I think one's from El Salvador and one's from Mexico. I love these people. And they were cooking and all, and I was out there making s'mores with my son. I had a little fire pit out in the back and making s'mores with my son. And I saw the next door neighbors cooking. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I said, now I get a door knock on my door. They brought me all this meat. I'm like, what up? Nice. I don't know if they're Democrats or Republicans. I don't know if they're legal or illegal. don't give a shit. They make good sausage. But I can tell you, Donald Trump has no interest, no dealings between us. To focus on all that is to give him power. He has no power. We give him that by taking our power and our authority and going, Joseph, what do you need today? You need tea? Let me make you tea. You need somebody, is your body hurting? Let me see how I can help you. You know, I just need to be heard. I need somebody to hear, see, and understand me. Come sit down. All the people who've come to me and sat with me, cancer, autoimmune, depression, anxiety, marriages breaking up, marriages coming back together, everything you can think of, people come and sit down and have this conversation with me in this clinic. And I can tell you this, not one of those people who ever left this office didn't feel seen, heard, or understood. Never. And that's what people want. They're trying to work out their stuff. They don't know the rules of the game because, I mean, hell, the rules seem to be pitted against each other in this society. All they know is, please just love me and don't hurt me. That's really what every human's asking for. Please love me, don't hurt me. All the actors and people fighting is so that we can fight for this, because if we're fighting for this, you can't hurt me. Right? That's what an actor really doesn't want. Don't hurt me. I want to save the polar bears. Why do you care about polar bears? If the polar bear was in front of you, he would save you. Why do you care about the polar bear? Because they're nice and they have a right to be here. Is it the polar bear who has a right to be here? Or you that have a right to be here? Just say, don't hurt me and love me. Just say that. Don't make it be about all this other stuff. Just get after it.
Right. It's funny, the first thing you said about me coming into your office was I need to be heard, and I study sacred body language translation, all that, and that's what coughing is. It's like I need to be heard. Sure. Like, listen to me. Sure. And I woke up with this like awful cough. It's actually way better now for this interview. I know it may have irritated some people, but that's not about me. It's about you. But it's like way better now. But I woke up with this huge cough, and it was like, I'm like, what do I need to be heard on? Like, what do I need to write a blog or something?
To be honest with you, to be honest with you, I could probably encapsulate it.
Hear me.
So all over the world, traveling with all these people, I've really come to gain the skill of listening. It's more than just a skill. In some big ways, it's a superpower. When you can stop listening to words, because people's words are just hieroglyphs for what they need, right? Everything you want, everything you do is trying to ask for a need, right? Certainty, variety, connection, significance, growth, or contribution. That's it. You know, and most people, when they want to be heard, is look, I just want to love. I just want to take care of you. I just want to help. Please just help me to find a way to help and to love and to serve. Can we all just put away differences? They're not really that different, right? That's what most people are trying in some way, shape, or form to say, but you know, it's just like, you're not helping me. And then I'm trying to help you, and you're not helping me. And, you know, and it's like, some people, they don't want to be helped. Some people want to do it themselves. And helping them is loving them enough to struggle. And sometimes you have to let people struggle because you have to love them enough to struggle. That's hard. Mm-hmm. If you really want to do something for other people, you have to ask yourself, is it about you or them? You know, a really simple test. If I do this for them and they never find out I do it, would you still do it? If you would, it's about them. If it's about you, you need them to know that it was you who did it. For me, I don't know if my name will ever be spoken of. Most of my students don't tell, wow, my teacher Lao. They don't do that. They don't do that. Most of my students will just say maybe my teacher, or they just like go do a workshop and they'll teach the stuff I taught them, and it came from them, which is fine. I want it to come from them. It's theirs, not my stuff. I didn't make all this up. This is thousands and thousands of years old. But what I can tell you is, if you love the work for the work's sake, sometimes people need to be lifted up, but sometimes people need to fall. I don't know your path. You know your path, and sometimes you don't know your path. So we have to let each other be where we are. When you need help, you say, hey, I need help. I say, what do you need help with? You talk it out. You may go, you know what? Never mind, I don't need help. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe you say, I don't need help. But I go, well, if you don't need help, then what would you like me to do? And, well, you did. Wait, maybe I do need help. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't matter if we're right. It matters if we're happy. You want to be right or you want to be happy? It's a simple thing. For everything that I teach, whether, you know, or everything where people come to me for private sessions, or people come to me for teaching and to learn the skills, they want to go do this, they want to go be Taoists, they want to become Taoist priests. I have the ability to take people to Mount Qingshen and be Taoist priests. You know, the big thing that I tell them is your job is to love and serve, however that needs to look. You don't get to be the arbiter of that, right? The cup doesn't get to tell you whether it's poison or medicine. The cup just is the cup. You're the cup. Whatever needs to happen, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, that'll serve you. You just be the cup. You just have the integrity to hold whatever the elixir is that you're serving. Simple as that. That's loving and serving your world. It comes down to nothing else other than that, you know?
Awesome. So we'll start to wrap it up here. What questions did you have? You said we had some questions that come in.
I got some questions
let's get
here.
to a few of those.
Okay.
See what time it is here.
It's 2:12.
Oh, wow.
Went fast.
I thought we had like a little time left. I guess we're already pinned, but if you're good, I'm good. Let's answer a few questions if you got time.
Let's do this. Can you speak briefly about the Qingshan Taoist Temple and how Four Dragons Institute effectively serves as a branch of that system? Okay, so Qingshan Taoist Temple in China is in Sichuan. It's on the southwestern border of China and Tibet. It is the very first Taoist temple ever made. It was made by Zhang Daolin, who was a celestial master. It is now a Dragon Gate temple. The abbess of the temple is my master. Her name is Zhang Mingxin. She's a 20th generation Taoist abbot. I'm a 21st generation Taoist abbot. And when I went there a couple of years ago and I brought my students there just to show them the origins of Taoist temples, it was sort of just like a field trip type thing. She heard about our mission and everything, and she said, I believe that the Tao brought you here, and I believe in your mission and all that kind of stuff, and I would like you to become a disciple. I think that you have an immense amount of things that will help to contribute to the lineage and to bring things forward. And I told her, about myself, that I'd wandered the planet for 22 years, that I had studied with all these things, that I was not looking for dogma, I was looking for Tao in everything, right? I was looking for the way, the unifying thing that makes us all one, right? And so I became a Taoist abbot in 2014, and then when I went back in 2015 with my students again, we did the formal ceremony where I became an abbot, and then we got what's called a mandate from not only the Qingshan Taoist Association, but also the Sichuan provincial government, the Ministry of Religion for Daoism in China, which basically says that I have a mandate to help to spread Daoism in the West. There are different Taoists throughout, and I love them all, and they are as crazy different as you can imagine. But it doesn't matter how you follow Tao; it matters that you follow the Tao. That's all that matters. And sort of from the government, from the Taoist Association, the China Taoist Association, which is the big federal one, my job is to sort of help people to come to be able to at least either understand or just get the skills to live in harmony with the way, so everybody can live in harmony with each other. And so that's sort of what we've done. So the Four Dragons Institute is sort of the academic institution from which the Qingshan Taoist Association Houston branch, which is the only one outside of China that's sort of mandated by the temple and everything to spread Daoism. Now, there are other Taoists in America that are affiliated with it, but they teach like the medical Qi going on. They're great people. I think the world of them. But we just have a different mandate, right? And so my job is to teach Daoism itself. And so that's my job. And I don't say job is like occupation. It's like my life's work, right? It's my purpose here, right? You're talking about souls come down, what you're here to do. So sort of bring this in a way. And so what I've done mostly was not just learn Taoism, but most people look at these things and they go, what the hell does that mean? For example, I'll give you a Taoist scripture. The highest medicine in the body is the spirit, energy, and essence, which everybody is equipped with, which is neither lacking nor full. If you know how to unify the differentiated parts by the whirling wind, the golden sprout will grow daily in the golden furnace. People go, what the hell does that mean? I know, right? So my job over the last few decades is not only to learn all that, to implement it, to do my own work, but then to be able to, so if you sit down and you say, what do you think people need to really heal? And I can say that their spirit, their energy, and the very essence of their body are all unified in one purpose, which is living life and living with passion and living in a way that is in harmony with their environment. And you go, wow, that makes sense. That's just what that scripture means. It's just Taoism, the old were poetic and prose, and it's being translated from Chinese, ancient Chinese, to modern language. So all I've done with the Four Dragons Institute was taken Taoism and its many, many spectrums of it and said, okay, well, here is Taoism, and here's how you can apply it. So it's just really practical applied Taoism. I'll probably get 1 million people out there, wear their different, Daoist robes, like cosplay, and they're like, no, the Jade Emperor sect, it says this. Look, I'm not here to disparage people's religiosity when it comes to Daoism. I'm not here to say it is. All I'm here to do is if you come to me and say, my life sucks, I can't figure this shit out, I say, here, these skills, these tools, we work it out, and we walk together with it. You gain the competence, and then, wow, you're living an amazing life. Nothing more. I'm not the arbiter of the Tao. I didn't copyright it. All I did was make it practical so that people could live on a similar vernacular, a similar page, and can comport themselves to their own highest standards, what we call De, virtue and power. My own personal virtue, my own personal power, my personal authority to choose for my own life and to live a higher standard, right? Laws of the country make criminals because don't kill. No shit. Who has to tell people that? But you do need to say that so that we have a moral, ethical reason now to take you and put you in a cage because you killed. But if you have De, you don't need to be told about to kill because why would you do that anyways? It doesn't make any sense. So to help people to create lives where they lower their expectations of people and life and raise their standards for themselves, life instantly changes. And there are many, many skills and techniques to do that within Daoism. All I've done was I've made it practically accessible to the most amount of people. And then we do very traditional things, but we very, very unorthodox ways about it. Because if you can't use it, then it's what's called useless. So that's sort of the mandate and how the Four Dragons and Qingshen work together. And when people go through their 3 years of training with me, they can go with me to China, which we're going to do again twice this year. And we're going to go to Mount Qingshen. Those people who've gone through the 3 years and have gained competence and skill, they can be ordained as Taoist priests and go on and use it to love and serve their world. Another was is Four Dragons Institute certified and reviewed for quality control institutionally? Yes and no, right? There's no Department of Education for Daoism, I suppose. So I don't think if you try to turn in your credits to transfer them to another institution. However, my master, I bring my students there every year, and she puts them through their paces and tells me, hey, if you need them or this or more, I take them. But Daoism is a lot about accountability and personal responsibility. You say you live it, then you need to be living it. You need to be doing it. And the way you know that is I put you in the situation and we watch it for a couple of weeks and we'll see. And we take people from such weird cross stratas of society and they live with each other for weeks and weeks at the temple and travel all around by China. And there's a goat there yelling at you. These people are the happiest people, right? And so the proof is in the pudding in terms of that.
Yeah, and I want to say real quick that I think, one of the reasons I wanted to interview you today, well, it's because Katie suggested it. Thank you, Katie. We'd never met, before today. And I know 3 of your students, Katie, Cherry, Daryl, Pierre, and Simone Olivier, and they're all amazing people. And not to say that that's all because of you, but even if none of it were because of you and them being amazing people, said this guy is legit and he's awesome, then I would believe that. So, that's what I kind of look at when I'm looking at teachers. It's like, it's not what did they teach their students to be, but who are their students?
Sure. Man, the thing is I don't teach my students to be anything. I help them to remember who they already are, and then I allow my students to be. That's the thing. That's one reason why we really can't say that it would, in the classical text of a cult, is that I have no input into what these people do. I don't tell them what to do or how to do it or when to do it. Some of my students are very cerebral, philosophical people, and some of my people are just as esoteric, mystical as you get. But they can all sit down and have an amazing conversation with them because there's no contradiction between the two because they're both amazing people. Me being amazing and you being amazing doesn't take away from either of us. Right. It just means they're 2 amazing people. All I help them to do is remember that because I see that amazingness in them and I remind them of it until they go, hey, yeah, maybe I am amazing. It's a big thing when people accept and allow that. Maybe I'm amazing. I'm no different than anyone else other than I look for the best in people and I vehemently do not focus on anything else. No matter what you've done, I do not care. I care what you're doing right now. And I care that you believe in the best of yourself because then that identity will make better meanings, which make better behavior. It's a very simple process.
Nice.
How does it feel good when you look back on your lifelong journey and see your intentions manifested as present context? Or does it feel really good, right? You gotta be proud. No, as a matter of fact, I'm not all that proud at all. And the reason why is I'm not really one for blame or praise. I think they're kind of manipulations in a lot of ways. When people praise you, you go, yes, that's me, thank you. But when they blame you, no. It's like, saying the teacher gave me an F, but I got an A, right? No, I'm not really proud one way or another. I choose to live my life this way. If I was living on a desert island, I'd be doing this. If I was living with MIT graduates, I'd be doing this. To me, you don't get brownie points for doing what you need to be doing. You live your standards. That's the reward. I'm not proud of that. I'm happy because of that, but I'm happy because I'm happy. There's no reason to be happy. If you have a reason to be happy tomorrow, you know why you're being miserable, because your reason's over. It's the impermanence of things. That's called being unreasonably happy. When people come to me and I go, you know what, Joseph, I'm proud of you. And you go, why? For what? Because you're Joseph. I mean, for what? You're a Pomeranian, dumping for a treat in a circus. You're you. You're the only you there'll ever be. And yeah, the Hope Diamond's rare, but you're rarer than the Hope Diamond because the Hope Diamond won't be here 100,000 years from now, and you won't. So I'm going to treat you like you're the rarest of rare because you are. I'm going to treat you like you're priceless and precious because you are. I don't have to be proud of you for that. There's nothing to be proud of. You're amazing. This whole thing is just how I choose to live my life. I love my students and I'm proud of who they are, but not because of what they do for me. That's bartering. I'm not going to barter them. I'm not going to prostitute them. I might as well leave a 20 on the dresser for them at night, What is your favorite class right now compared to the others? Do you have one? I don't have any other classes. They're all the same class. The martial class, people use their body, use their martial class, people who might be abstract, other things, spatial relationships with the sky or with the earth. The herb class is the relationship between herbs and man. The Dao class is between you and yourself. It's all the same thing. It's your relationship to what you call the world. How you learn is how you learn. I need to be able as a teacher to know how you learn. It's not what the teacher teaches, it's what the student learns. I have to mold the teachings to how you learn for you to get it. If you try to mold the way I teach, you're going to be a bad student, and I'm going to be an inferior teacher, right? So it's the same class. I don't teach a different class. I teach the same thing 1,000 different ways because it's all one thing, right?
Interesting.
Rectify your heart, you rectify the world. You really can't get any more basic than that. What future classes do you envision? I could envision 1,000, but I mean, it's really, speculation is frivolous. Patience reveals everything. What do you need? If Joseph comes to me and he says, do you have a class in toenail reading? Yeah. You know anybody else who wants toenail reading? Yeah, like 15 of my friends. Okay, we're going to have a toenail reading. What do you need, man? How do you tea reading, tea leaves, I Ching, and cosmology? It's the same thing. It's just different mediums to sort of interface with that same universal principle. Whatever the class is necessary, that's what we'll do. I don't know. Who knows? The way society goes, you get the very conservative periods where people are like, don't speak of anything untoward. And then other ones were like, liberty, let's talk about animals. You're like, whoa, wait. I don't know. I just have to go with the flow of things. Don't reject anyone, accept people as they are. And that's how I love and serve the world best. That's how it works.
What are you getting requests for these days that you're not teaching?
Well, I'm getting certain different things. Like one of the things that people are wanting are to go deeper into what we have. So, for example, now people are starting to have to more like declare a major. So, like for example, if you want to take the warrior path, they want to go deeper into that, right? So they want the time where they're sitting in the horse stance for 2 hours and they're getting hit with the stick and they're doing the old school martial trick. They want that deeper, more authentic experience. They don't want just the teachings in an academic way. Most of them now are saying, take me down the rabbit hole. So they say, I can't take you down, but I can let you jump in and kind of go with you. I can't walk for you, but I can walk with you. So most of them are wanting that. And so we do things like sometimes we go to graveyards and we do our meditations in the graveyards. Right? Or sometimes we have them sit and stare at a candle for a couple hours while we work on different things with their vision to understand perception and how non-ordinary states of perception is kind of the ordinary, really. you know, and different things like that. So people want more experiential versus more academic. And so there's things like that. So we're going to go to Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam here in a week and a half. And we're going to go through that trip, which is nothing but experiential. And everything we teach, you have to do. And you don't have to be a student to go on those trips. So people say, look, I want to go on a retreat. And I'm like, well, you go to a retreat and sit in one place, or you go across 3 countries on a retreat, having to dynamically use and adjust and adapt because your life is dynamic, needing adjusting and adapting, right? And so there's that kind of stuff. And then we go to China, and then our yoga track, which is amazing. We have our yoga teacher training track. We have the yoga classes here, and these are experiential classes. It's not a normal class where you put your ass in the air and all that. This is a class where you go into some really deep stuff, and you have to experience yourself through yoga and the chakras. And our yoga teacher training helps not just make a certified so you can teach yoga, but to become a certified yoga healer, right? So you're using chakras and all these kind of things. You really go through your own hero's journey to help then facilitate other people's, right? Because that's what more people need. Not teachers, but facilitators, right? Healers. We don't need healers. We need people to facilitate thinking about health in a new way.
Yeah.
Healing means not really healing bodies.
Right. Reminders.
Yes, exactly right. So, you know, the person involved in that, Kim Torrance, she's outstanding at that. She is phenomenal at that. And so her track, she does modules, she has drop-in classes for teacher training, the whole thing. And she takes her people on yoga trainings. We're talking right now Costa Rica, possibly Machu Picchu coming up. So this is very experiential where people have to get into it, and then they get into real stuff where they get into mischief and they get themselves back up. And so it's a really big thing. That's what most people really want. They don't want theory anymore. They want performance. You know, potential is interesting. Performance counts. They want to be able to do things. And it takes skills, not knowledge. And that skill only happens with competence. When people say to me, well, I'd love to, but I'm afraid, the only way to overcome fear is skill, competence. Fear is the unknown. I don't know. So competence helps you to get through it. So that's, we have to get the skill by doing it. You have to fall down, get up, fall down. That's how you get the skill. So yeah, it's amazing how all of that's sort of going. We have our Tai Chi trip. So our guy in charge of the Tai Chi, his name is Blue Satanko. He's a Chen lineage holder from Chen Village of Chen Tai Chi. And we'll be putting Chen Village trips together and doing that. And he's one of the best teachers I've ever seen. He's soft as hell as a human being, but he's hard as hell as a teacher. It's a really great silk and steel, you know, combination. Then we have Harry, who teaches applied Buddhism, so people can go through the Buddhist path, but it isn't going to be just, you know, reading and thinking about it. It's you sitting and you're going to do the chanting for long periods, meditation for long periods, to really understand that liberation from samsara and samadhi, you know, to get to samadhi and all that. So it's really a path where one of the ways you describe it sometimes is it's many lamps all walking the same path, right? Going up the same mountain.
Yeah, just different aspects of the same thing.
Sure.
So, any other questions before we wrap it?
Here's one. I thought, are there any female monks? How many, in your assessment, is the 4 dragons or Qingshen Dao school gender equal? And does that help or hinder the Taoist principles of curriculum? Gender in Daoism doesn't matter. Yes, I have probably more female students, thereby more female priest monks, than I have male. Women are far more apt to go through the emotional tumult and storm than men are oftentimes. It's just a fact. You know, they live in an emotional world, so they're more prone to go, well, we're in a storm, so let's jump. Yeah. Whereas men are generally more, you know, thinking about it. But male or female is irrespective, because the yin yang is everyone has male and female within them. So the women going in their path are healing the inner female, but mostly the inner male, and the males are healing the inner female. It's this we don't identify each other, like you said, through contrast. Well, the men have to do, it's not about that. It's not a patriarchal thing. The first Taoists that we kind of know from a very, very long time before they even used the word Tao, the first masters were women. They're the ones who sat there watching this moon go around in a cycle, going, I've got a cycle, and you're a cycle, and wait, there's something to this thing, right? That was the thing. And, gender equality, my master is the number 2 Taoist in all of China in terms of the hierarchy, and she's been a woman. She's been cultivating since she was 12 years old on that mountain. She's in her 60s now. I defy anybody to sit down and go toe-to-toe with her on her resolve and her will. But we don't really look at those type of things because it's extraneous. It's just useless. What does it matter? You have to go through your work. A woman going through it or a man going through it is completely irrelevant. It has no bearing on each other.
Because it's the soul going through it ultimately.
And that's really what it comes down to. Don't look at this package going, well, we're in this body. We're not in a body. The body's in us. We don't have a soul. We are a soul. We have a body. There's no gender, right? The archangels are never depicted as masculine and feminine. They're androgynous, right? And so it's about going back to original nature, whereas children, little girls and little boys, they learn different and everything, but they're not necessarily, they're both children, and they don't identify themselves. They don't carve the block that way, you know what I mean?
Right.
So gender equality is not really even a thing. Now, I will tell you, in mainland China, it's a Confucian society by nature for a very long time, which is very patriarchal. But within Daoism, there's sort of had to be this thing where, Taoist nuns do this or whatever, but nun, monk, priest, that's a Western terms. Even then, my master, she would say she's a Taoist abbot, not abbess. We would put, in the West, we say, no, she's a woman, so abbess. She says, I'm an abbot, or she just says, I'm a Taoist priest. It's gender neutral. They don't have male, female, and they don't have a plural singular in their writing. So we don't know. Lao Tzu means old master or old child even, but it could be masters. It could be old men masters, women masters, mix of men and women. There's no designation between the two. In that, so where my female students come to me and my male students come to me, I don't really make any allowance for, well, I'm a girl treating that. You're getting treated the same way by the Tao. You're getting treated the same way by me. Right? Swift kick to the pants. Doesn't matter what's in the pants. You're getting a kick in the pants from the Tao. That's how that works. So, I think that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. We definitely went a lot of places. We walked each other home to a degree here today. We went all over the place. This was awesome. Katie, thank you for setting this up. It was so much fun. And so they can find you. I don't think we mentioned Houston. I don't think we mentioned this is in the Heights, or maybe we did, but we're in the Heights right now.
We're in the Heights Medical Tower on 20th Street. It's 427 West 20th Street. We're in the Medical Tower on the 6th floor, Suite 602.
Beautiful up here. Really nice space you've got.
And we call it Jade Garden, right? Jade for all things spiritual, and garden where things grow. So this is where things grow spiritually,
Nice. And what about the long distance? Where's the website to find you?
It's www.fourdragonsschool.com or fourdragonsinstitute.com. Dragons is plural. So
they can find your calendar and how to get
everything. They can sign up for classes online. We also have a Facebook page, Four Dragons Institute. You can find us there. We are all interactive. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're going to be getting webinars for the yoga tract and for the Taoist tract. Eventually, the Buddhist tract will come along. We're as interactive as many ways as people want to learn from us. We have those ways available. It's not a matter of can they, it's just a matter of will they. If they want to, come. If they want to just see what it's like and come find out, come and sit and have a conversation. Talk to me on the phone. Talk to one of my disciples or students on the phone. There's a million ways to do this. It's a matter of, are you ready? When you're ready, nothing will stop you. When you're not ready, any excuse will do.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated this. I had a lot of fun and learned a lot. And I apologize for the coughing, but it's like I said, it's a lot better than it was earlier today. Sign up for my YouTube channel below. You can subscribe. You can find our future events on josephzenner.com/events. That's ZENNER. But thanks for joining us, and I appreciate it. Hope to see you soon. We'll be coming out with our new schedule for this spring very soon for the show. We'll have a lot of really exciting things, including pyramid building. We have some of the smartest people on the planet that we're going to have on a panel to talk about how we're actually going to build big-ass pyramids. I don't know if you knew that's one of the things.
I want to learn how to build pyramids.
Yeah, let's build some pyramids. All right. Thank you so much. Peace, everyone.